All right. Thank you guys so much for being with me here today. Hope everyone out there is doing well, all things considered. Had quite a few people waiting and quite a few people already commenting, so it's good to see y'all. We're here today because there's something going on that we don't want to watch and we don't want to think about it, really talk about. So we're going to be sitting here, talking about all kinds of things, and we hope that everyone is doing well. Let me do something really quick while we're sitting here. I may have a guest or two drop by. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, it's Martin Luther King Day, and so we want to wish everyone a happy Martin Luther King Day. And I'm sure we'll be talking more about him soon. Again, I really appreciate y'all taking time out of your day to tune in here and tune out other places. I did put out a new album's worth of material. It's on Bandcamp right now. It's been doing really well so far, and I really appreciate y'all for downloading it. So if you haven't already, be sure to go over to Bandcamp and check that one out. It's got 8 songs on it. There'll be, when I put it on Spotify and iTunes, there'll be 2 more tunes that will be on there. Wasn't allowed to put cover tunes on Bandcamp. Without going through a process that I didn't understand and didn't have time to figure out. So when it hits Spotify and iTunes, it'll have a cover of an old bluegrass tune called The Teardrop Inn, and it'll have a Lucinda Williams cover called Pineola. But for now, 8 songs have dropped on Bandcamp, and it will be it's available for download now. So thanks to everyone who has downloaded it, and hope that everyone is doing good. And real quick, I'm going to send a email over to one of my potential guests that may be dropping by. Let me figure out how to do that while you're sitting here with me. Here we go. All right. And I will try while we're waiting. So this should be, I'm about to post the link, if I can get it to go. Well. Okay. And there it is. There is the link. I'm posting it now. There's the link to the new album that's on Bandcamp, and someone just ordered it. So I really appreciate that so much, and hope everyone is doing well. I know I was really glad too that the Midas Touch Network is not airing the inauguration. They're not playing it either. I don't think we should. This is all I really want to say about him for the moment. I don't have any respect for him at all. I do have respect for the office of the presidency, but he doesn't. And so he clearly doesn't have respect for the presidency, the government, or the rule of law, or anything. And so I really don't feel that we should show him any at all. I don't think any of the former presidents should have showed up, and I applaud Michelle Obama for not going. And I think that everyone should just totally just boycott the thing and not look at it, because it's not worth looking at. I know all of us have a sick feeling in the pit of our stomach right now. And because we don't know exactly what's headed our way. We're headed into uncertain times. But, this is where we're at. And I said so many times, I said, we'll be kicking the can down the road if we win this election. I said, we'll be kicking it down the road because they're not going to go anywhere. And then they ended up pulling it off. And so here we are. We can't kick the can down the road now. We got to stand up and fight back and let our voices be heard. And so many people have said things to me like, well, Brando, what are we going to do? How do we honestly combat this going forward? And I think we continue to let our voices be heard. We continue to speak up and speak out. I think it's also very important to stay focused on state and local politics as well, because that's where it's really going to hit you the hardest. Tomorrow night here on the channel at 7 p.m. I won't be going live noon tomorrow. I've been going live at noon on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Tomorrow won't be at noon. It'll be at 7 o'clock Eastern time. And I'm going to have Gloria Johnson from the from the Tennessee Three. She's going to be here with me, and I'm really looking forward to talking to Gloria. She and I have been talking about ways that we can bring more awareness and attention to what's going on here in Tennessee. Because I've told people for a long time, the people that that don't live here, I'm like, Tennessee pretty much already is Project 2025. It's pretty much already here. And so we're having to stand up against that now. And I think if we start talking more on a state level of how things truly affect people, because I really believe that going forward, what's really going to happen is Trump supporters and the people that's still hanging on, they're going to have to feel it. They're really going to have to feel the effects of what he really is. They didn't really feel it the last go around, not fully. And then, 2020 happens, he loses the election, and he tells them he didn't, and then they can't accept it. So they spend 4 years of their life blaming every problem they have on Joe Biden and thinking to themselves, if they just hadn't have stole this from Trump, then my life would be so much better. So now they're of the nature to be like, oh, we've got him back, so now our lives are going to go back to being better. And they're not. They're not. None of the things that he's talking about or doing is going to lower the cost of eggs at all. It's not going to lower the grocery bills. Prices aren't going to magically come down. None of those things are going to happen. And as time goes on and people realizes what they've done and it starts to feel it, as bad as I hate to say it, that's probably the only way they're ever going to learn. Even if they learned then, and I truly don't have confidence that they would, even if they lost everything they ever had, and he told them so. I almost believe if Donald Trump came out and took every egg they had and busted them on the sidewalk next to him, they would find a way to cheer him on. I've never seen anything like it. So I really don't know if we're ever going to get through or could ever get through to those people. But there are reasonable people out there who eventually will have enough and eventually will look around and see that, this isn't working for them. So they got what they wanted today, and they're all geared up and pumped up. But I've already I've been making my notes on the prices of everything. I've been looking at my grocery bill. And we're going to see if it magically drops. I got to do a grocery pickup in the morning, so I'll let y'all know if it was half off. I'll actually need to send some out to my mailbox right now to see if the free cheeseburger's in it. I mean, it's ridiculous the stuff they thought could happen. But here we go. So I'm gonna pin this comment here just for a minute. That is the link to it's in the comment section, by the way. That is the link to where the new album is at. It's over on Bandcamp, and if you've never heard of Bandcamp, it's a really cool app, a good music app to use. And I have so many people ask me all the time about. They'll ask me, which music app helps the artist out the most, and it would have to be Bandcamp. They really do. You don't really make anything if you put your music on Spotify, iTunes, stuff like that. You get paid like quarterly, and sometimes the payouts you get are pretty laughable. And it's sad because musicians sink so much of their time and effort and money into their and thanks to the Vol Queen and Summer for sharing that link as well. You put so much of your time and effort, and you sink thousands of dollars into recording. It's not a cheap process to do. And you sink all that into it, then you throw it up on Spotify, and you get back pennies. I'll give you an example of how it works. So in Spotify, like iTunes there, I think this is my 11th album, by the way. This is 11. So there's 10 other albums floating around on Spotify, and there's a bunch of singles I've released over the years. So all that music is circulating, and you get paid quarterly. And I don't remember exactly what the payout was, but I'll just say that when I put out the song "He Ain't From Here" about J.D. Vance, and I put that one out and put it over on Bandcamp, I made more money off that one song in just a few weeks than I did off those other 10 albums in like 6 months. so that definitely tells you how warped that the whole music system is. And if you're downloading, Spotify is a very convenient way. iTunes, all those are very convenient ways to listen to music. But if you want to help the artist and give them the most support, the Bandcamp's the way to do that. Also, they have Bandcamp Friday, which I think is the first or second Friday of every month, and when that happens, then you can give the artist gets 100% of the profits. So if you pay $10 for the album, the artist gets the entire $10. And so it's a good app, and there's a lot of great bands on there, a lot of great music. It's not just necessarily underground and local bands. There's bands like that are on a higher level that puts out stuff like alternate takes and soundboard recordings and different things. So it's a really cool app to check out if you haven't already. Go over and check out Bandcamp. The Brimstone Sessions Volume 2 is up and running, and I really appreciate all of you who have downloaded it so far. But I do want to real quick here. I know we don't have long to talk, but I want to bring in my good buddy Coach D, because man, here we are. Let me get my headphones so I can hear you.
Yeah, man, it's a crazy day. How you doing, man? I wanted to say happy MLK Day.
Absolutely, man. That's what we really need to be talking about. How are you doing?
I'm doing well.
Good.
Sorry I couldn't be on longer. I don't know why I planned this practice. My athletes were calling like, Coach, we practice in a day. Like, they're eager to actually practice. So I'm like, okay, I'll come out and we'll have some practice and everything. Give me time to hang out with them as well and talk and everything. So I was talking on my page today about reflecting on MLK and just the path that he's laid for people like myself and just appreciating that. And so I never want to come off like I take that for granted, because I really do respect and just take seriously that he's kind of laid the groundwork for people like me to be sitting here with you doing this and so yeah, I just it's a good day for that.
Yeah, it really is. Man, I could honestly remember the first time that I heard the speech he made, the I Have a Dream speech. I can remember the first time I ever heard it all the way through. We watched it in history class, I think like my freshman or sophomore year of high school. I don't remember exactly which one. Mm-hmm. But, at the time, I was familiar with who he was. I knew who he was and what he was about, but I really hadn't went no further than that. And, I'm in a school, man, my high school might have had, I can't remember how many, we might have had 500 or 600 kids in it. It wasn't a lot. But there might have been one or two black kids in high school for me. In grade school, there was none. I didn't see a black kid in school till I was like in the 7th grade when I went to middle school. And so, I'm sitting there in an all white school pretty much, and we're watching that. And I remember some of the kids kind of like, making fun of the way he said, I have a dream and stuff like that, and, kind of whatever, and laughing about it. Okay, let's see what this is. And then they played that, and I just sat there, man, in my chair, just so humbled. It was one of those moments where you're sitting there watching that going, dang, like, and when he got to the line about the one that really leaped out at me was when he said, I hope one day we live in a world where people are judged not by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. That just really stuck out to me and made me really stop and think and just reconsider a lot of stuff that I'd heard in this part of the world growing up.
And I every year I do this thing where I go to like conservative pages and they'll post, especially that part of the I Have a Dream speech. And none of them have ever read his letters from Birmingham prison. There's so many things, right, that he's talked about and so much of what is going to be celebrated today he would be against. But a lot of times conservatives will use that quote out of context. They typically will just say something like, yes, by the content of their character. And they'll say that means like no DEI, no wokeism, no CRT. And what they're not understanding is that we are not yet being judged by the content of our character. Yes. We are still being judged by the color of our skin. So because of that, his dream has not been fulfilled. And it's funny because I often ask conservatives when, I should say I ask it rhetorically on my page and stuff like that. But if Martin Luther King were here today, would he say, hey guys, my dream has been fulfilled, let's pack up and go? Or would he still be marching with groups like BLM and Colin Kaepernick? Because if he wouldn't be, I'm going to need you to tell me on what day could you be able to say that Martin Luther King's dream has been fulfilled and we don't need to fight for it anymore? Because that day has not existed yet in the history of our country. But for some reason, people seem to think that has.
That's a great point, man. It really is. And, I was very naive. Like back when I was watching that in high school, I remember thinking about it, and I was thinking, I may not have been thinking about the year 2025, but I definitely was thinking years ahead. I was thinking, okay, if we make it on up into the 2000s, I was naive, man, and I've always said that I apologize for being naive, because I really thought in time we would get past all those things. I thought, yeah, I thought, if you'd have told me back then that we would have even had a situation where BLM became a thing, if you'd have told me any of that happened, I'd have been like, oh, we'll be past that by then, And then it seemed like, I don't know. Seems like when Trump came along, everybody just started getting so empowered to say all the quiet parts out loud, and it just kept getting, snowballing. But like to your point, I don't think that his dream has been fulfilled. And if he was here today, I can't see him, like you said, I can't see him just be like, well, we got what we wanted, let's all go home. I can't see that at all.
No, and it's funny that a lot of times people they just they take it out of context, and they seem to believe that those words are not, they weren't just words, they mean something today. And I don't think people understand that. And I grew up thinking the same thing. And a lot of people will say, Donald Trump had, he had a racism under control. There weren't a lot of racists anymore.
Yeah.
No, it became even more so. And it really frustrates me when people say that, Barack Obama brought on more racism in this country. I can't think of too many things that don't piss me off more than that, because I will say this: the reason why there was more racism is because people hated him so much.
Exactly.
Not anything that he said, but the fact that people hated him because he was a black man, the first black president.
Yeah, I absolutely agree, and I seen that so much here in my part of the world. It just really seemed amplified, and people, man, just did not like being led by an intelligent black man. They were just so, and they said things back then like, we don't care even if he does something good for the country, we're not going to support anything he does. I mean, I've had people say that, and then people will turn around today and they'll say, well, you said similar things about Trump, and I think they're complete apples and oranges when people tries to compare the two, because they were hoping Obama failed, and Obama was trying to get health care passed and trying to help people out. I do hope Trump's radical agenda fails, because it's radical, and it takes away from so many groups of people that I don't want to see that succeed. That doesn't mean I don't. I mean, of course, I want to see the country succeed. I want to see us do better, but I don't see how that we can with him leading and with him calling the shots. I just feel like his agenda is so extreme and excludes so many people that I don't want to see that catch on any worse than it already has.
Yeah, I agree, and I think it's rich that people will say that you should respect the office and all of that. I'm never going to respect bigotry, hate, homophobia, racism. And until that office, the person in that office shows me that they're not going to be that, I'm not going to respect it. And I'm going to be here every day to call that out. I'm going to be here every single day to continue to call out racism and bigotry. And I don't care if people say, oh, this is why you guys lost the election. This is a sword I'm going to die on. I will die on this sword, because I want a world where my daughters actually are judged by the content of their character and not the color of their skin. And when I say that, I mean that, when we get to a point where we don't need DEI anymore, we don't need any form of affirmative action anymore. We don't need to teach, critical race theory. We don't need to, be woke, because there's so much hate and bigotry in this world. Until then, I'm not going to respect the office and the person in it, and I'm not going to be quiet about these things.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. I was one question I've always wanted to ask you. I don't know if I've ever asked you before, but there's another quote that a lot of people, I think, takes out of context, and I've never heard him follow up on it. I've never heard him talk any more about it. So if he has, maybe someone else knows. But it's the Morgan Freeman quote where he's asked about racism and how we end it, and he says, "Stop talking about it." He says, "We don't talk about it." He's like, he said, and he started talking about Black History Month, and he's like, why ain't there a White History Month or whatever? And he, my history shouldn't be limited to 1 month. But I've always wanted to hear him follow up on that a little bit, because that's another one of those quotes that's fell into the hands of bigoted people who uses that and says, see, if they just stop talking about it, stop bringing it up, stop calling it out. And there's so many times that I've been accused of race baiting for calling out racism, and I've always wondered what your thoughts were on that quote.
So I feel like, because I've seen other quotes by Morgan Freeman that actually shows that he kind of is more progressive and liberal and democratic, that's definitely taken out of context. And I wish I knew right at the moment, because I'm almost sure if you watch the beginning and end of that, there would be more, but I can't remember. But here's something I've always said to people. Imagine telling, victims of sexual assault, if you stop talking about it, it'll go away. You know, telling people who had their homes broken into or something, hey, if you stop talking about it, it'll go away. Me not talking about racism doesn't make it go away. People who are racist, like halting their racism, is what makes it go away. You know, so we only talk about it as a reaction to it. If it weren't happening, I would have nothing to talk about. There'd be no racism. But the fact that, you know, I don't know if this might be, let's see, I got 10 minutes, but I don't know if you saw the video of the young lady who recently was jogging and she went into this black guy's house, or went up to his house thinking she was going to pretend that she was going to a house because she thought this car was following her. Turns out the black guy backs up into his own driveway. She says to him, "Is this your house?" And he says, "Yeah, it is." And she goes, "I don't believe you." Then she grabs her son and daughter and she runs down the street yelling help. And she dials 911 as well. It was the guy's house. He was pulling into his own home. And now she's now yelling help, calling 911. Her and her husband come back to the house and they're mad at this black family for not taking their apology. And the guy's like, she says in front of her husband, "I asked you if it was your house. You could have just said it wasn't." Luckily, they have Ring camera footage of this. The guy's like, "I did. You said, 'Is this your house?' I said, 'Yes.' And you said, 'You don't believe me.'" She called 911. She does this apology video and she doesn't understand the gravity of what she did. Those scenarios have led to black men being shot and killed by police officers because you decided you felt threatened by a person coming to their own home and you didn't believe they lived there. Because these things happened within weeks ago, this is why we fight. This is why we continue the march. This is why we continue to talk about these things. And for people to not understand that absolutely kills me, because I've dealt with that. Every black person that I know, every one of my friends who are black, has dealt with being in a neighborhood and having either the police called on them or people looking at them funny or people questioning them for walking through that neighborhood. And until those things stop, we have to continue this same struggle every single time. And so on an MLK Day, the fact that I'm making videos in 2025 about black people still being profiled in their own neighborhoods, at their own homes, tells us that racism, it's gone nowhere. We haven't gotten any better. And it's sad. It's absolutely sad, because if that woman had pulled out a gun and shot him, or if the police had come and killed him, people would be saying, well, maybe he should have, been a little bit nicer the way he said it was his house, or maybe he should have kept his hand. I mean, it's crazy, man. Sorry, I hijacked a moment there.
No, go for it, man. I really appreciate you coming on always. And there are so many things like that. The funny thing is, when I sit and talk with black people and tell them my experiences with the law, it's a completely different reaction. They can't believe some of my stories are even true, because mine are more along the lines of, I'll give you one example real quickly. I know you got to go, but one night I was coming home. It was probably it was after midnight, and I had a headlight out and didn't know it. And I went on a date and I had the girl with me, and she's sitting beside me, and we get pulled over and don't know why at the moment. So they walk up to the window and they ask us, if we got any guns or weapons in the car or whatever. And me, I'm always truthful, so I was like, yeah, she does. I knew she did. I was like, she's got a loaded .38 in her purse. They was like, well, could you care to take it out and show it to us? So she does. She lays it up on the dash and everything. And then they start telling her about how that she can go get a concealed carry permit to carry it. They're just as friendly as can be. And she did begin to flirt some. I'm not going to lie. She did turn on the flirting just a little bit. And so they sat there and just was like, well, get that headlight fixed, buddy, and just go on with your day or whatever. And I've told that story to black people who said that would have never happened to us in a million years. And I've got stories like that where I've had them give me a ride home, like, hey, you had too much to drink, buddy, we'll give you a ride. It's like, and it's just sad when I've sat and compared stories. It's eye opening for me. It's humbling as crap when I look over and hear some of the stories that I've heard, and I've actually seen it work to where a friend of mine's a musician, and he used to be of the nature that we were all talking about racism too much. He always had that attitude for a while until he saw it himself. He had two black guys join his band, and they were all coming home one night from a gig, got pulled over. And he said, man, they literally got the black guys out of the car, searched them, give them the whole sobriety test and everything, and never he was the one driving. They never got hit. They never got him out. Never, it was just the black guys. They did that too, and let them get back in the car and leave. But he said, I just sat there going, and they didn't even question me. They just wanted the two guys in the back seat to get out. And so that was a humbling moment for him. And he made a long-winded post apologizing for the way that he had, kind of downplayed those things before. But it's because he had to see it in real time and what people go through. And so, yeah, I mean, I think we should always honor Martin Luther King, and I do hope the day comes that it comes true. But I think we're going to have to put a lot of work in, and we can't think that just not talking about it is just going to magically go away. Especially now when you've got so many people amplified, and you got Elon Musk giving people like that a megaphone.
Yeah, man. I'm. It's going to be a rough 4 years, but I'm here for the fight, man. And I appreciate you having me on. I gotta rush over to this school and get this practice going. If you're on when I get back, I'll jump back on. I know you're planning on being on. I know I actually made a video before I came on here, and I told people, go on Tennessee Brando's live, because I know you're going to be talking about your new album. Maybe I think you told me you might even pull out your guitar a little bit, right?
Yeah, I may later. We'll see.
Yeah, nice. So yeah, man, that'd be cool, man. We're gonna have to collaborate. I used to be a rapper back in my days. I have to talk to you about that.
That'd be good, man. Yeah, we'll have to do that for sure.
All right, man. I'll talk to you soon, man.
All right, take care.
Enjoy your live, man. Thanks, everyone. I appreciate seeing you guys as well.
Thanks, Coach.
See you.
See you. All right, it's always good to it's always good to have Coach D on the channel. He's one of my favorites and a really good friend, and someone who I talk to every day. And so it's let me just doing something real quick here. Make sure we're still on. Okay. He's one of my favorites, and I talk to him every day. And the thing is, like I was telling him, I grew up in a town. It was mostly a white town. There was no in my part of the world, and I didn't realize this. I thought this was all over the country until I was talking to some friends from California. It's like, we've never heard of this. But where I'm from, you have city schools and county schools, and I went to the county. And the kids in the county schools, there wasn't any black kids really in the county schools. There was in the city schools, and the black people did live in the city. And then in my part of the world, you've got all these back roads and hollers that winds way back in the mountains, and so that's why in the video y'all saw of me talking about the 2 inches of snow, how that it knocked school out for 2 or 3 weeks. People was laughing at us over that. Well, the reason is because we just have so many winding roads that go back in there, and we might get 2 or 3 inches here, but they get 4 or 5 up there, and then it's just, some really rough roads and rough areas. So, that's where all the white kids lived, was back in those kind of places. And so I went to a school where there wasn't any. I went to the county schools, and so there was no black kids in the county schools up until I got to high school. And then, like I said, there might have been 2 or 3 in a school that had 500 or 600 kids in it. There might have been 2 or 3. And in my graduating class, I think there might have been 1, if I can think back on it. But so I wasn't, I wasn't around it, and I just grew up hearing people in the South. Here in the South, you get told a whole lot growing up, and you have to grow up, and you have to learn to face up to a lot of uncomfortable truths. Back when you're growing up, especially me, growing up in the '80s, it was during the years of like the Dukes of Hazzards. My favorite show as a kid, and I can still remember running down the hallway in my mom and dad's trailer, like running down the hallway when I would hear Waylon Jennings start singing, the intro theme. I'm running down the hall to see that. And, you got the General Lee with the Confederate flag on top. And then we're listening to bands like, Alabama and Leonard Skinner and pretty much every Southern band and Southern artist back then, Hank Williams Jr. and everybody, Charlie Daniels. And, I mean, what kid in the 80s didn't love the song Devil Went Down to Georgia in my part of the world? We all did. So you would see those flags flying around those kind of artists, and then you would hear them talk about, the music they grew up on and how they all grew up on blues and loved blues music, and how they weren't prejudiced people, and I'm not even saying they were, but like, they would tell you those things, and it was supposed to be heritage, not hate. That's something you would get told a lot. I can even remember shirts back then that had that quote on it. They probably still make them, honestly. But we just grew up hearing that, and then you get in school, you start learning about the Civil War, and when you start realizing which side you were on, then people in our part of the world would try to start explaining that all away, like that, That it was more about states' rights. I used to say that all the time. It was more of a states' rights issue. But then when you pin them down a little bit and you go, well, states' rights to do what? And then you're right back to the problem, And so that's the world that I grew up in, and had to one day learn that a lot of things I thought, meant something didn't mean that at all. Like I said, we just grew up in that era, thinking that that everything was going to be all right. And I mean, and the thing is, the people that we grew up around were good, hardworking people. My family loved and took care of me. I had a good mom and dad. They weren't racist or prejudiced people at all, and they always was there for me, always took care of me, and they're still there for me to this day, And so, you grow up around that, and you grow up around, your uncles and different family members who aren't prejudiced people either, and they're good for you and there for you. And so you just grow up thinking, well, that's going to be okay. We'll make it through that. And when I heard that Martin Luther King speech back in high school, I do remember being very humbled by it and very kind of stopped in my tracks and realizing, hey, this person was really just trying to say something to bring people together. And I never could figure out why that anyone would hate someone over the color of their skin. That made no sense to me. It never has. Luckily for me, though, I had a grandmother and a mom that was very progressive and educated me on things. Otherwise, I don't know where I might have ended up if I hadn't had them in my life, to be honest with you. I sometimes question that. I question, like, where would I have been if I hadn't had people to guide me the right way. But then, we grow up and we make it out of high school and everything, and I'm out in the world playing music to white audiences, and I'm playing, music that's like I said, like the old, I hate these terms too. I hate the label Southern rock or outlaw country. I hate those labels, but that's kind of what it was. And anyway, I'm out there doing that and playing those things and doing shows like that and thinking that maybe we'll get better with things over time. And then, man, it's like it just all seemed like all the ugliness started coming out, and people that I really thought were good people weren't anymore. And I've never been more disappointed in some people. And I have to say, even not in my immediate family, but I'm just saying, like, some extended family members truly disappointed me, and some people that I used to be friends with have truly disappointed me once that they feel empowered, once they feel empowered to say the quiet parts out loud. And I just realized while I'm sitting here talking that I don't have to have these headphones on now that now that the coach has left the show. I was sitting there like thinking to myself, like I looked in the camera there and I was like, why do I have these on? So yeah, I have to put them on when the coach comes on, because what ends up happening is we end up getting an echo. If we listen to his voice through my laptop, then it comes back and has an echo. So anyway, let me check my settings real quick to make sure nothing got changed over while Coach was on. If anyone's having trouble hearing, everything's the same on my end. I got my mic volume cranked all the way up and don't have anything turned on that I shouldn't have. There was one time, it's been a while back now, I'm sure some of you was there for it, and I didn't realize what I had done. I could not figure out how to stop it, but it sounded like that when I sang and played guitar, it sounded like that I was in a hole. It sounded like I was kind of, almost like a rippling water effect. And what had happened was I had turned on my echo cancellation because I had a guest on a previous show, and I turned on echo cancellation because we was getting some echo. Well, and also a thing you have on here, a filter, you can turn it on that will mute background noise. So as I'm sitting here singing and playing, it's picking up my voice, but it's trying to push my guitar out because it's trying to push out that background noise. And I didn't realize that. And so we did a show one night and the sound was terrible. I ended up deleting that show, by the way, because I went back and listened to it because people kept saying, you sound like you're underwater. And I was like, I don't know why. And so anyway, I really do appreciate everyone for being here. And thanks again to Coach D for coming on the channel. He's always welcome. Who knows, he may pop back in later. Yeah, if you haven't already, be sure and go over and subscribe to the coach's channel. He's one of the best out there, and I truly appreciate his friendship. And what I started to say and got distracted when I was talking about growing up, in an all-white school and things like that. years later, meeting someone like a Coach D, and we've even talked about this when I've had him on the show, but he's someone now that I will call up or text and say, hey, I want to talk to you about this, and I want to know, does this have racial undertones to it? Is this a racist thing to say? And I do that because I want to learn and do better. And one of my biggest pet peeves that I have, like when he was talking about how that one thing that pisses him off is when people says Obama's the one that brought on racism. One thing that that really pisses me off is when people tries to act as though they'll say to me, they'll say, you have white guilt. I absolutely hate that one. When someone says that to me, like, you have white guilt, stop being apologetic. That's not it. I've always said it has nothing to do with white guilt. It's about knowing an asshole when you see one. Yeah, it really is. And maybe we could put that on a shirt, but but it is. It's just about seeing through wrong and calling out wrong for what it is. I really believe that we have to continue to call it out. But the right has done such a good job, honestly. And when I say good job, I'm not saying it's a good thing. I'm just saying they really worked hard at pushing their propaganda and pushing their bullshit to the point that, if you said anything at all about anything, you were woke, and they made woke a bad word. I remember years ago when they really began hammering down and making liberal a bad word, and they worked on that one for a long time. But then it was like, well, wait a minute, people are still bringing up racism, and they're still bringing up cruelty and bigotry, and they're still pointing out these things. So let's just call them all woke, and we'll come up with this phrase, the woke mind virus, and we'll tell people they have that. I want to go on record and say there is no such thing as the woke mind virus. That does not exist. That is a catchphrase that they came up with to distract. And Ben Meiselas calls them weapons of mass distraction. That's exactly what they are. They're all about distracting. And when someone says that, that's their way of trying to distract and trying to take away from what people are trying to talk about. You got someone like Elon who uses that phrase a lot because his child became trans, and instead of being there for that child and helping them through it and being proud of them and lifting them up, he decides to use the phrase woke mind virus and go around. And I really believe a lot of that somehow went to his head, and I don't know what it did. Like I said, I don't want to spend too much time talking about any of them, but and I didn't watch that rally. I saw a couple of clips from the rally Trump did, but the whole point of today for me was to not talk about him and to just boycott what he's doing. But when Elon tries to talk in front of an audience, he can never say, and Joe Rogan, none of those guys can ever say anything about Joe Biden stuttering again, because he sounds like a nervous rat up there trying to talk. It is the most ridiculous thing. And I'm sitting there listening to it going, this is the guy that bought the election right here, and he could barely complete a sentence. So, but I'm not going to sit here and talk about his cognitive decline. What we're going to do is continue to thank everybody for being here. We've got 2,326 people sitting here watching. That's 2,326 people who aren't watching the inauguration. So shout out to all of you, and thanks for being here. That's the whole reason why that I wanted to do this. I wanted to do it to take away from that. Like I said earlier, I do have respect for the office of presidency, but Donald Trump does not. And so I'm not going to. I don't feel that he's not earned our respect at all. And again, I'll say that I applaud Michelle Obama and AOC for not going, and I really wish the rest of them had said it out too. But again, I want to real quickly thank. All right, let's see. Let me do the thanks here. Thank you so much to Ronan, who is reading To Kill a Mockingbird to Honor Kindness. It's a great one. I need to go back and reread that. I haven't read that since either like high school or my early 20s. Also, thanks to Charlie for becoming a new YouTube member. I actually know a guy with that name. If it's you, hey, good to see you. If not, thank you anyway. But I do know someone named that, so thank you so much. I really appreciate you. Also, let's see. Thanks to the Spicy Jester, hearing your voice on this most horrible of days that sees the devil return to office is comforting. Thank you for standing up for all of us. Well, thank you for standing with me. I really appreciate it. This platform in my mind is ours. It's something we built together. And I appreciate you all for taking time out of your day to listen to what I have to say. I'm just a guy sitting in a chair just thinking out loud a lot of times, trying to get through it. And I don't really have many regrets in life, but if I did have one, I would have to say it would be that I wished I'd have started doing this a long time ago. I wished I'd have had the jump on it, and I started really doing this kind of content in 2020, but I should have been doing it 10 years ago, and so or longer. So I really appreciate y'all for being here. Also, thanks to Lori Yates for that. Thank you to Ann Smith. I really appreciate it. Thanks to Andrea Graham for that. And thanks to Jeanette. She's always gifting memberships here on the channel, and I really appreciate her for that. For those of you that have never been a member, we do have members-only content there, and you get the videos. If you're a member, you get the videos earlier usually. Unless I'm running behind and I have to just get one out really quick, I try to set them to come out either the night before or like a couple of hours before to let the members see them first. So, yeah, thank you so much for that, Jeanette, and thanks for your support here on the channel. Also want to say thanks to David for the super sticker. Thanks to Survivor58 for becoming a new YouTube member. And also thanks to K Cinema. Most other nations don't allow terrorists to be their leader, yet so many allow their leaders to be terrorists. That's, yeah, X-Men 97, episode 5. I'm sure my son knows that quote because he watches that all the time. Thanks to Debbie for that. Also, thanks to Greg. This is the voice of the resistance. I really appreciate you for saying that. We will be the voice of the resistance. We're not going to stop. And so also thanks to Debbie. I appreciate being with all of you in community. Thank you so much for that. Also thanks to Julio for the sticker. Thank you to Donald for that. Thanks for what you do and represent. Well, thank you for being here with me. Also thanks to Layla. Been a year now. Here's to another. Thank you so much. Been a member for 12 months. That's awesome. Thank you so much for sticking with me that long. I really appreciate it. And also thanks to Jerry Anderson for that. I really appreciate it. I'll try to circle back and I always like to call those out and bring them up and let people know they're appreciated. And I especially appreciate all of you for being here and supporting what it is that I do here on Martin Luther King Day. Also, real quick, I'll bring it back up for those of you that just tuned in. There is the link to the new album that I put out. I released that over on the Bandcamp app. And Bandcamp is a really good app, like I was talking about before Coach D joined the show. It's a really cool app and a great way to support artists. They get more bang for their buck there. You're not going to really, I mean, I understand Spotify is convenient and iTunes is convenient, and I've used them both. But an app like Bandcamp goes a long way to help the artist. And so I really appreciate you so much for being here with me. And there's the link again for that. And I appreciate Summer and Naval Queen for posting that. It's, to sit here and do this, it may look kind of easy, but there could be a whole lot of distractions if you're not careful, because you're sitting here and you got a comment section, and I'm wanting to read them and see what you all are saying. I'm also wanting to remember what I wanted to say and stay on point, and then sharing the links and letting people know where they can go and find things can sometimes be pretty hectic. So I truly appreciate, especially when we get a crowd like this in here. We've not had a crowd this size in quite a while, and that, again, that's very that means a lot to me, knowing that you guys are here and you're not over there watching the inauguration. I'm not even probably. I mean, I'm sure I'm gonna see clips from it eventually, but I'm probably going to scroll past most of them. I just want to get back to talking about the issues at hand, talking about what's going on in the world. And let people know what's going on and try to raise awareness on that. And tomorrow night, if you're gonna, I definitely would love to see this many people back here again tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Eastern. I'm going to be talking with Gloria Johnson from the Tennessee 3, and she and I have been talking about ways that we can talk more about state politics and things that goes on a state level, because I really feel like that what a lot of people don't understand. I really do feel this. I feel like that there's people out there. Well, I'll give you a case in point of what I'm talking about. So the other day, me and my son goes to the gas station. My son's driving, and he gets out to pump the gas, and I'm sitting there in the truck. And I see that this guy walks out, and he just strikes up a conversation with my son. And he's like, yeah, it sure is cold out here, ain't it? It's one of those kind of conversations. My son's like, yeah, it is. He's like, yeah, and it's supposed to get colder, which it is. It's supposed to get down like 8 degrees tonight, I believe, here where I'm at. So it's going to be cold. Bring your pets inside. It's going to be a rough one. But anyway, he just starts shooting the breeze with my son, and I'm overhearing it. And my son's not a confrontational person. He's not going to, argue with some random dude at a gas pump. But they're sitting there talking, and then the guy goes, "Well, I wonder what's going to happen Monday when they swear Trump in." And Dylan goes, I don't know, like that. He didn't want to talk about it. He's like, I don't know. And the guy said, it's just eating them up, man. It's just eating them alive to see him come back in there. And Dylan's like, I'm sure it is, just, trying to pass on the conversation and go on with it. Well, after that, I got to thinking about it, and I thought, that's really all that guy knows about it. And I'm not trying to act like I'm smarter than anybody or sound condescending or one-up anybody, but all he knows is that Trump won, and that pissed off a bunch of liberals, and it's going to eat them alive to see that, and watch how mad they're going to get when he gets back in there. And what the guy don't realize is the policies that Trump has and what they're going to do to this entire country. And he doesn't realize that his grocery bill isn't going to be any cheaper. He's still going to be struggling just as hard as he ever was. He's just going to be mad at Democrats and Biden, always. No matter, when Trump gets in there and doesn't fulfill the promises, it will be Democrats and Joe Biden's fault. It'll be that Joe Biden, like Coach D said on here the other day, it'll be like, Joe Biden messed it up so bad I couldn't fix it. And that's where we'll be. But that dude didn't realize what the gravity of the situation. He was completely oblivious to it, just going about his day thinking about, look how much it's going to piss off them liberals to see Trump back. And so what me and Gloria is going to do tomorrow, we're going to talk about some things going on here in Tennessee and some important things we have happening here and what's happening on the local level. And we need to talk about that because those are the things that's going to affect people like that. And then when they start going, well, why did these things happen to me? Okay, well, let's just trace it right back till we get to the head of the snake. And when we get there, his name's going to be Donald J. Trump. And there's why that you can't get ahead in this world. And there's why your daughter was needing help and couldn't get it. That's exactly why it was happening. So I think that's one of the things. If it's so many people say, what do we do going forward? Well, number one, we got to stick together because we no longer have a president that's on our side. We have a president that considers people like us the enemy from within, and he said so. His followers view us as the enemy from within. So we got to be careful, stay safe, and do the best that we can out there. But we got to stick together. We can't spend our time bashing each other. We can't spend our time splitting, hairs about things. And we have to stay focused, stay on message, stay on point. And we do have to keep calling out all the lies and the bigotry and the bullshit. We do. We have to keep calling that out. But I don't want this channel to just turn into a Trump bashing channel, and that's all it be. I will always be bashing him, by the way. I'm not going to let up, but I'm saying I don't want that to be all it becomes. I want to be part of the solution, not just pointing out the problem always. And so tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Eastern, I'm going to be talking with Gloria Johnson here on the channel from the Tennessee 3, and we'll be talking about what's going on in Tennessee and how that we can combat it and how that we can get our message out there. Because when we were talking on the phone the other day, and I'm sure we'll talk more about this at length while we're talking, but we were talking and we were talking about how that, how can we get our message out there? And Gloria made a great point. She said, our ideas are more popular. What we stand for and the ideas that we have are more popular with people. They just don't understand, who can get it done and who's actually for it and against it. They just really believe that whatever Donald Trump tells them is true. And that's one of the things. I saw a video the other day where Brian Tyler Cohen, who I watch every day, by the way, shout out to him. I love his content. Besides the Midas Touch Network, obviously, I watch Brian Tyler Cohen every day. Luke Beasley, I never miss him. Adam Mockler, which is part of Midas too. But Brian Tyler Cohen's one of my favorites. I just really like his approach, the way he goes about it. And he was arguing with Chank from the Young Turks, because Chank gives credit to MAGA for booing Mitch McConnell, and thinks that they're not a cult, and thinks that he says, well, his argument is, well, look, Steve Bannon's battling with Elon Musk. They're divided right now. That's a good thing or whatever. And Brian Tyler Cohen pointed out, yeah, but they're all still their allegiance is still to Trump. They may be fighting amongst themselves, but their allegiance is still right there to him, and that's the only place it is, And so I can't remember the name of that video. I think it was something about them in a fiery debate, but it was a good exchange, and I really appreciated Brian Tyler Cohen, standing his ground to that. I know a lot of people has a lot of different feelings about Cenk Uygur from Young Turks, and I have my own. I don't think he's. I mean, he's disappointed me here lately in a lot of ways, but I don't think he's wrong on everything that he says either. And again, I don't ever want to sit here and bash people that I feel like are on the same side with us. I don't know really where he stands these days, to be honest. But I don't, if someone comes out and just turns full-blown MAGA, then yeah, they've absolutely lost Brando. But as long as they don't do that and they're out there trying to stand up for the truth and stand up for democracy and stand up for everything that's going on right now, then I don't want to be on here, bashing other people. I want to unite people and bring them together and let them know what we need to be working on. And I also don't want to focus my attention on trolls and on people that, that may call you out in a video or whatever. We had the whole TikTok ban thing that was the biggest joke ever. Good Lord. What was it gone for 12 hours maybe as far as TikTok was gone? And it was all a big stunt because they come out and it's like, sorry, you can't use TikTok right now because the law of the United States is preventing you from it. We're working to restore it. And then they come back just a few minutes later. Oh, you can't use TikTok right now because the law says you can't, but Trump is going to work with us to fix it. So we brought it back for you. A social media platform giving Donald Trump the credit. They've already got X, Facebook, and Meta. Now they're going to take TikTok. And it's just, it's so ridiculous that people can't see through what a grift that whole thing was. Donald Trump is the one that started the conversation about the TikTok ban. He's the guy that got this whole conversation going and originally wanted to ban it. And all of his followers were for banning it then when he told them to be for banning it. Now that he says it's good and it's a good thing to use, now they're all running to it. That's why I can't give them credit if they suddenly cheer or boo something. They're only doing it because of their allegiance to that one guy. So not to get off track, but, they have their allegiance to one guy. We have to have our allegiance with each other. We have to stick together, work together, continue to get our message out there, continue to lift up our voices. And we got to continue to get in the mud. And I've sat and debated long and hard about, okay, because I haven't posted anything on X since I posted the Cheaper Eggs tune. And then after that, I've not posted at all on X. I've kept the account up, which I've debated on deleting it, but I don't want to be on X because it's Elon Musk's, and and every time I've ever logged on it, he's the first person I see at the top. That's what I see is his message. And I don't want to be a part of that. Now I've been on the fence about Facebook and Meta in general. Part of me would like to just throw it in the garbage can and leave. I do have 81,000 followers on Facebook, and I can't remember how many is on Instagram. But I have built up followings over there. And you say to yourself, well, do we all? If we all just leave these platforms, if we all just up and leave them, and just leave them to MAGA, and that's where the majority of people are listening, and none of us are there saying anything. It's a double-edged sword. I understand completely not wanting to support them, and I'm still on the fence about it. So give me your thoughts. I'm open to ideas because my thought is, okay, I don't want to contribute to those platforms because of what they've stood for. I don't want to be part of it. But but then there's the other angle of thought that if we leave them all together and leave behind, because there are a lot of people on there that's the only place they listen to me. They say so. I don't like. I've had people tell me I don't understand how to use YouTube, or I don't understand. I don't like the other apps. I just listen to you right here. So, do you walk away from that and leave those people hanging and leave them all with just nothing but MAGA drowning them out? I think we're just going to have to be louder. We're going to have to be louder. They're loud. They are really loud and obnoxious and over the top, and they're hateful and they're cruel, but they're on the wrong side of history, and they're on the wrong side of history with hatred and cruelty in their back pocket. And so, if they can be so empowered to stand up and speak for hate, I think we can turn it back on them and be empowered to stand up against it. And so, yeah, now as far as TikTok goes, I haven't been posted near as much on there because I just keep getting hit with CGVs every time, the community guideline violations. I just keep getting slammed with those, and I keep getting shadow banned and suppressed. But I do like a lot of the creators over there. I met, that's where me and Coach D met, me and Texas Paul met, Superman Todd. There's so many creators over there. If I started naming all their names, I'd forget some of them. There's a lot of great creators over there that I really like and like what they have to say. I would personally like to see them branch out to other platforms, though. That's what I've been saying to a lot of them who I have their phone number and we text back and forth. I'm like, man, just, I understand being there, but get over on some other ones and say something too. Don't just leave it just to TikTok. Because I just got to where I couldn't gain any more ground. I made it to 235,000, I think, followers. And then every time I posted a video, it just kept getting suppressed. And so I could never gain any traction and just grew frustrated with it. And because YouTube took off so well and we had so much going on here, I just put my attention where the most people were at. And so, but at the same time, you say to yourself, well, you know, if we can use as many tools as we can to our advantage while we still have them, then maybe we need to. So, yeah, someone just said TikTok will drastically change, and I do believe that it will. But I've not been a fan of it for a long time. Like I said, I like the community. I like the people. I like the creators that I found there and met there and have formed some great friendships from that. And that's where I got my start, really. I mean, I did have a YouTube video blow up first, though. The YouTube video blew up first, and then after that, I couldn't really gain any traction here. Went over to TikTok and just started gaining traction like crazy and built up the following, and then all of a sudden this started catching on over here on YouTube, and I just came here because I got tired of the headache. Yeah. I got one of these tumblers. It's just a generic one, but it actually works really well. I poured this coffee in there a long time ago, and it's still hot. So I was thinking about trying something while we're just sitting here shooting the breeze. Let me see if I can do this. We'll see if it works. It may not. I may just completely drop the ball on this one, but if me dropping the ball on this is going to be the least of our worries going forward. So let me see if I can pull something up here for y'all. Here we go. Let's see. So I'm going to bring up my album, and it's over on Bandcamp. It's on bandcamp.com, just like that one time at Bandcamp. You can actually go over there and check it out. I posted the link earlier, but let's see what happens when I do this. So here it is. This is what it looks like when you go over to it. There it is, the Brimstone Sessions Volume 2. And I've had a lot of people ask me, you know, what does that mean, the Brimstone Sessions? Well, the Brimstone is a studio that I recorded at. And the reason it's called Volume 2 is because Volume 1 is already been put out back in 2019. You can find that under Brandon Fulson. That's Brandon Fulson. You can find that album there. That album was just me and a baritone acoustic guitar. But this one here is now Volume 2, and want to give a shout out to Summer, who's one of our moderators. She knocked it out of the park on the cover of this album. I really appreciate that. I am going to be going old school and printing up some CDs, so I'll have to get those out to you. But let's see if we can play a tune here and you guys can hear one. I've always wanted to write an instrumental, but I've never really did so. What happened was I wrote this next song on the bass, actually, believe it or not. I wrote it on the bass, and I'd never done that before, but I've been playing more bass here lately, and I wrote the song on the bass. Then I started creating the guitar parts, and then I started trying to come up with words, which I'd never done that before. I usually have the words written first. And so I tried to come up with some lyrics for this tune, and nothing made sense. So I decided to just make it an instrumental. I'm a huge Allman Brothers fan. This is no in memory of Elizabeth Reed, by the way. I'm not that good. But this is called My Hill to Die On. And this is the song that opens the album. So let me see if I can get this should work. I pull up YouTube videos and play them for you. Let's see if this works too. And on this, I played the rhythm guitar, lead guitar, and bass. And Brian Stansbury played the drums. and that was My Hill to Die On from my new album, The Brimstone Sessions Volume 2. Hope everyone enjoyed that. I didn't realize just how badly I ripped off Alan Collins from Leonard Skinner with that one lick on the end. I definitely ripped that right out of him. But that's what I grew up listening, and so that's what I grew up listening to. And so I can't play a song and not channel that. It's all those Skinner records I grew up on. But it kind of it also. Me and Brian was talking about it. It kind of has a little bit of a Neil Young vibe too. So I've always been stuck somewhere in between Ronnie Van Zant and Neil Young anyway. So I guess it's only fitting. But I do appreciate y'all so much for listening to that with me, and hope everyone is doing well. And we're just boycotting the inauguration. And so if you haven't already, be sure and go over. That's available on Bandcamp, and that's where you can check that out if you want to. Let's see where I left off a minute ago. I think I left off. I know I said Layla because I remembered that. I'm a huge fan of that tune. And then there was Jerry. Thanks to him. Also, thanks to Rissa. I hope I'm saying that right. Thank you for that. Also, thanks to Shelly. Thanks to Emily. Thanks to Becky, thank you for being here on the sad day, and thank you all for being here with me. Also, thanks to Grifflist. I always have trouble. The gifts at every show, and I always have trouble saying Grifflist for gifting. I always have to slow down, but thank you so much. Every show, they go out of their way to gift memberships, and I truly do appreciate that, and I appreciate the support here on the channel. And so, thank you all so much for that. Also, let's say thanks to Phyllis, and I might need to play another song because I've had like 3 people buy the album just since I've been sitting here. So thank y'all for that. I really appreciate it. Thanks to K Cinema. Says funny how the next 2 big Marvel projects, Captain America: Brave New World and Daredevil: Born Again, both feature villains who are corrupt politicians. You would definitely want to talk to my oldest son about all that. Believe it or not, I grew up in the 80s, and I've never watched any of that, really. I watched, I take that back. I went to the theater, which I know this is D.C., but I went to the theater and watched the Batman with Michael Keaton when I was a kid. And I've watched the Joker that, what's his name did? His name left me. Heath Ledger. I almost said Heath Slater, but that's like a generic wrestler. Anyway, I never really got into those kind of shows, but yeah, it's kind of ironic how that so many of those shows touch on stuff like that. The show that I watched recently, I highly recommend it, but I will go ahead and give a trigger warning. It's pretty brutal and pretty gruesome. If you've not saw the Squid Game, I think the Squid Game is that's like the most prophetic show I've ever seen as to what we're going through in this country, and the front man is Elon Musk. It is like, that's just creepy, how eerily creepy that show is to our real world. It's pretty brutal, though. If you got a weak stomach, I wouldn't recommend it. But anyway, also thanks to V. Branco. I really appreciate that. Thanks to J.D. Christie for being a member for 6 months. I really appreciate it. Thanks to Air for always being here. Really appreciate it. I just played a little bit of music. I'm going to probably play some more before I leave, so we're just hanging around here doing some more things. Thank you for that. Also, thanks to KD Mully. Thanks to Lynn, member for 12 months. I truly do appreciate it. I hope you're doing well, and thank you for the kind comment. Also, not sure how to pronounce that. Midas Touch is showing puppy and kitten videos. That's awesome. That's great. I don't have any pets, or I'd have to bring them on, but I don't. Also, thanks to Sally, thanks to Anna Marie for that, and thanks to Grace. I really appreciate y'all so much for being here with me and taking time out of your day to be with me. So we can talk about anything you want to, and we'll have a good time with it. But I do appreciate y'all for downloading the album. It's been doing well since I put it up there, and I appreciate it. And I want to say thanks to to Summer and to the Vol Queen for moderating and for sharing the link. But there it is again. That's the link to the album, the Brimstone Sessions Volume 2. I know you're technically supposed. One of the things to do these days is everybody says you're supposed to release new music on Fridays, and that's usually what people do. But as we were wrapping it up, and I realized it was going to be done, I was like, well, it could be done by January. And I said to Odell that was recording with, I said, man, could we have this done by the 20th? You think we could have? He said, yeah, I don't see why not. And so I said, all right, then that's when I'm putting it out. I'm going to put it out just as if nothing else, as a symbol of protest. Someone just said they're bouncing back and forth between me and Midas. And so, do that. But feel free to bounce around. You're not going to offend me. This is the thing. I've always said this. I appreciate people if they take 5 minutes, 2 minutes, 30 seconds out of their day to come on. I appreciate it. I don't expect people to sit here the entire time. Switch back and forth and check out what's going on out there. And, now someone wanted to know, Laura, this is a good question. I can nerd out for a minute and talk about amps. So she wanted to know what amp did I use on my record. I used a Vox AC-15, and it's really been my favorite amp that I've ever owned. I used to play through Fenders. I had the Fender Deluxe. I played through it for years, and before that I had a Marshall. But I just kind of gravitated. I really like the sound of a Gibson guitar plugged into a Gibson guitar through a Fender amp. I just think they have a really good sound when those two things are paired up together. But the problem I ran into with the Fender Deluxe amp that I had was that it had the volume. There was a sweet spot on that volume knob. If you got the volume knob up to like 3, you were too loud for the sound man. You were blowing everybody off the stage. The sound man would be like, can you bring it down a little bit? And when I would bring it down below that 3, I would start losing my tone. My tone started sounding real tinny and thin. And so there was really no way hardly to get around that. I needed to crank just a little bit louder and couldn't. And so a buddy of mine was telling me about the AC-15 and how that you can crank those up pretty loud and you still get your crunch and your gain and your tone still stays there, but you can also keep it at a comfortable volume that's not blowing everybody out of the room. And so, it was a Vox AC-15, and on that song that I played just a minute ago, I was using a Hagstrom Viking. I've absolutely fell in love with the Hagstrom guitars. They're a Swedish company, and they're really good. I actually ordered. I done something kind of funny. I probably shouldn't admit this, but this is progress in my mind. So the other night, I just had a really long day, and I was like, man, I've got to have a drink. I have had such a long day, and I've been trying to do everything in moderation. I'm trying so hard to not ever fall back into bad habits. Well, I didn't do that. I didn't fall back into any bad habits. But I woke up the next morning and realized that I had put in an offer on a guitar online, and it had been accepted. And I was like, oh. Okay, I ordered a guitar. So I ordered another Hagstrom, which is it's one of the Hagstrom that looks like a Les Paul. So I'll have to show that to you when I get it. But there's so many things that like 2008 Brando would have bought in that situation. So that's progress. That's a lot of progress right there for me. So that was the amp. Was the Vox AC-15. I used a Hagstrom. Used a Hagstrom Viking on that. I've also got a Fender Telecaster that I played, and I've got a custom-built Telecaster that I played on it a lot, and a Les Paul. The Gibson Les Paul is the guitar I've had the longest. It's an 81 model standard. I'm getting it worked on soon. A good buddy of mine in Knoxville is one of the best guitar techs around, and he will make your guitar. Anytime I take it to him, it sounds brand new. Steve Novelli, if you're in Knoxville and need your guitar worked on, there's nobody better than Steve Novelli. He's great at it. Every time I give him a guitar, he sends it back, and it sounds better than when I bought it the day I bought it. And so I ordered me some new pickups that he recommended for my Les Paul because they kind of got old and worn out and burnt out. And so we're going to put some new pickups in it. And now I've got a new one on its way. We'll see how that works. So Yeah, those Hagstrom. Those Hagstrom. I would love to have one of the Swedes. Well, actually, this was a Swede. There was another one though. The one I ordered was a Swede, but there's another one they got too. Not the Viking. Is it the Ultra? They got another guitar that looks really cool too. That I was looking at. But the main thing with the Hagstrom for me was just the way that it fit my hands. It just absolutely fit my hands, and plays like a dream. No, Vol Queen, no. We have got more snow. The kids were out of school today for Martin Luther King, so there wasn't. But there hasn't been school since Christmas. When they got off for Christmas break, right as they came back, it snowed, or was supposed to go back. It snowed. They've been out for 2 weeks, and so we'll see if they're going to be back in there tomorrow or not. I don't know. I think the jury's still out on that one. We'll probably get the notification here in a little bit. We usually get notified around 4 or 5 o'clock in the evening if there's going to be school tomorrow. So we'll see. But yeah, I really appreciate everyone for being here with me. See what else I can find while we're just sitting here. But yeah, I hope everyone is doing well. Let's see. So I want to bring up something here if I can get it to play. And we'll watch this. I'm just hoping I don't screw up here and lose somebody. All right, so I'm going to play this for you too. A minute ago, I played the song "My Hill to Die On," but here's a video. This is on members only at the moment. I'm probably going to make it public pretty soon, but I'll let you guys see it here. I've got this up on my Patreon and on my members only. But this is me playing the Hagstrom Viking, and I just so happened to actually catch. I just so happened to actually catch the solo that I kept. A lot of times I'll be in the studio, I'll be recording a video, and then I'll throw that solo out. I was actually able to keep it, and and then I was able to line it up with my hands, which took me a minute in the video editor to get the song to line up with my hands. But if I can share the screen here, I'll bring that up and play it for you. It's just the ending solo is all that it is. But let's see. Let me get it up here for you where you can see it. So it's just the tail end of the solo, but I actually caught the take I did on it. Yeah, I was lucky to catch the actual take that I ended up using, which sometimes don't happen. Sometimes I'm not lucky enough to catch the take that I did, but I didn't plan that, by the way. Like I don't like when it comes to guitar solos. I will sit and play around with it before I get to the studio, but then when I get in the studio, it's hard telling where it goes, and I just let it go wherever it wants to. I don't really sit and map out my solos too much, especially on a song like that. I did the beginning parts of it that's more melodic, but I ended up on the end there, I just got into wailing it, and then went back and listened to it, but damn, I ripped off Alan Collins in that one spot. But here's the thing about it, folks. I've always told people this. If you steal from when you're a musician, if you steal from one man, if you take from one man, it's called stealing. But if you take from many, it's called research. So I didn't just take from him. I definitely ripped off some Neil Young in there, and a whole lot of people. So so there's that. But yeah, if you haven't already, be sure and hit the like and subscribe button. I really appreciate y'all for being here with me, and hope everyone is doing good. I'll be back recording pretty soon because I've got so many songs written. I've got no shortage of material. I really don't. So, yeah, I really got no shortage of material. But I do appreciate everyone for buying the new album. It's been doing really well so far, and I appreciate you for doing that. It's over on Bandcamp, which like I've said before, is a really good app to support musicians on. So we'll get back real quick and thanks to Lori, thanks to Ann, thanks to Andrea. I might have did these before. I'm trying to get back. Okay, I did. So see, thanks to down here where I was last, right here. Thanks to Terry and thanks to Rebecca and Laura. And I answered that question about the amp. It's a Vox AC15. Says, just buy one good bottle of liquor. You're going to need it for such a black day. Yeah, I have to be careful though. Really, for sure. Also shout out to Ellen Thompson for becoming a new member. And, now also thanks to, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Is that Jock or Jackie? Thank you for that. Came across your channel a month ago and I chime in every day now. Thank you. Well, thank you for chiming in. I really appreciate that. And thank you for being here. So, yeah, I really appreciate it. We'll sit around here for a few more minutes, and I hope everyone's doing well. And, you know, the thing is, folks, we've been through this before, and I know it's not under the same set of circumstances. I understand we're in a completely different world now. I've had people say, well, you know, Brando, you lived through it once, you can do it again. Well, yeah, we have. We've lived through it once before, but before he didn't have immunity, before he didn't have free reigns, before he didn't have a Supreme Court, a Senate, a House, everybody behind him to do anything he wants to do. So that's the part that makes you feel the most uncertain in your gut. And it just really, you know, and I'm not trying to bring down the room, although I think it's kind of down everywhere, honestly. But like, you know, it's just the idea that people was so willing to just toss away democracy so fast. They were so willing to just say, I don't care. And I had people say they were cool with him being a dictator. People that I used to consider friends would say, well, I'm cool with it if he does what I want him to do. And it's just so sad. But I go back to something. Back when I was in school, I was always reading. I've been a reader my whole life. And so we used to have an hour-long lunch break in school. And I never was into sports very much. I played very little. Didn't do much at all. I was always taller than every kid there, so they always automatically thought that I was good at basketball, and I'm not. I can block. I can block and rebound. That's about it. I would, if I had have pursued basketball at all, then I would have just had to been like a Dennis Rodman, just somebody that's just there to, like, you know, block and agitate. That would have been all that I would have been good for. So I didn't really play a whole lot of sports, and I had an hour to kill. And I was, you know, the quiet kid that just, you know, go to the library and sit and read a book. I'd be sitting there reading about FDR and the New Deal, or reading about the Civil War, or reading about the Foundation, or reading about something. And I had a history teacher named James Baker. I never will forget him. I haven't seen him in years. But he used to recommend books to me to go read that wasn't being taught in history class. I remember I kept asking him why we hadn't studied Vietnam. And he finally got around to saying, well, they don't want me to teach y'all Vietnam. They don't want to talk about it. So here's a couple of good books you can go check out on it. And so I'd be sitting in the library reading my books, and I would have people walk up to me and be like, what you reading for? Which is kind of like the Bill Hicks joke. For those of you that knows the comedian Bill Hicks, he had a whole skit where he was sitting in a Waffle House reading a book, and the waitress walked over and was like, what you reading for? And he said, I've never been asked that, you know. Not what am I reading, but what am I reading for? You know? But when I first saw that comedic skit, I thought, I've lived that. You know, I really have. I have had people walk up like, why are you in here reading for, man? Why ain't you out there running around the hallway or going out and playing ball or something or whatever? And so those same guys that would be sitting there going, what you were reading for, are now celebrating today. And I was reading so we would prevent today. That's why I was reading. I was reading so that we wouldn't have a dictator. I was reading so that we wouldn't piss away our democracy. That's what I was trying to catch up on. And while they were, you know, sitting there trying to make sure the teacher didn't see a dip in their lip, and questioning why I was reading, the reason I was reading is so we didn't end up where we're at today. and people like that paved the way for it. So, yeah. Why are you always trying to think about stuff? Yeah, it's so funny. It's so funny how people don't even realize. They don't even realize. I would walk up if I seen somebody sitting and reading a book, and I mean, probably I'm the type of person I'm like, hey, they're reading, leave them alone. Let them learn something. Hey, good for them. But if I did walk up to somebody, I wouldn't say, what are you reading for? I'm like, hey, what are you reading? Is it any good? Tell me about it. I always love hearing about people's favorite books, and I definitely have mine. I don't remember. Every time that someone asks me, what's your Mount Rushmore of books, I'm sure I give a different answer every time, because there's just so many great books out there that I've enjoyed over the years. I've got some laying here on my desk that I ain't got to yet. This isn't on there, but like I just got this Screwjack by Hunter S. Thompson. I thought I had read every Hunter S. Thompson book there was, and somehow this one slipped past me. But I'm also a huge fan of Ken Kesey, who I'm reading this one at the moment, Demon Box. It's really good. I love Ken Kesey. He wrote One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, which ended up becoming a movie with Jack Nicholson. And that's one of my favorite movies. That's one of my favorite books. But for me, I would definitely have to put up there at the top of my list, I would have to put Fear and Loathing on the Campaign Trail in 1972. That is one of my favorite books of all time. Also, The Grapes of Wrath would for sure be in there. I think The Grapes of Wrath is criminally underrated. Slaughterhouse 5 is up there for me by Kurt Vonnegut. That one's up there pretty high. The Helter Skelter, I can't lie, that's probably the greatest crime novel ever. Although the best book on that subject I ever read is called Chaos by Tom O'Neill. It kind of debunks a lot of the Helter Skelter narrative, but I've literally sat and read those books side by side. Regardless of what was and wasn't true in Helter Skelter, it was a very well written book. And I honestly, I don't know if it'd make it on my Mount Rushmore necessarily, but the Bible would have to be up there for me. If nothing else, just as a piece of literature. There is some of it. If you can get past the fact that, well, I don't really believe in it, but I'm saying, if you could get past like all that and get past the religious side of it, the Book of Revelation is one of the most well-written books ever from a literary standpoint. It really is. The way the words flow and the descriptions, it's top notch. Hunter S. Thompson loved that book and said he used to sit and type it on his typewriter so he would get the feel of the words, and he would type a lot of the beat writers that he enjoyed. So yeah, Hell's Angels by Hunter S. Thompson would be up there for me too. That one's definitely at the top of the list. Chaos is one of the best books I've ever read, period. It truly is. And that dude really put it. What happened was with Tom O'Neill is he wrote for a newspaper, if I ain't mistaken. He wrote for like a newspaper or a magazine, and they asked him to do a piece like on the 50-year anniversary or 40-year anniversary, whichever one it was, of the Manson murders. They asked him to do a piece on that, and he said, "Well, what could I say about it that ain't already been said?" And so he started digging into it, and he started uncovering some things, and then he missed his deadline getting that article in, and ended up, I think it took him 20 years or something, or 12 years. It was up there. It took him a long time to write the book. But he did, and it's a great one. And Jack Kerouac is another great writer. I love him. I actually, believe it or not, I got to confess this, and I'll tell you the truth. I probably started the book On the Road. I started that book about 4 or 5 times, no joke. I would start it and get about a quarter of the way or halfway through it, and it would just lose me. I don't know why. I was younger at the time. I was a lot younger. And I would read it, and I'd go, I don't get it. I don't really, it's not hooking me. And then one day, years later, I'm up like in my mid or late 30s, and I read it, and I go, this makes perfect sense. And it's great. And because I used to tell people when they'd ask me what I thought about that book, I'm like, I never have been able to finish it. But I finally got around to finish it, and then I went back and read it more than once, and it's brilliant. But it's one of those things that I just, for whatever reason, it just didn't hook me. And I think that happens a lot of times with music and with books. Sometimes you're not necessarily meant to hear an album, or maybe you're not meant to get it just yet. That's why I always, if I respect and love the artist and they put out an album that I particularly don't care for, I'm not going to bash it. Because I respect them too much as an artist to do so. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let it stick around for a while, and then I'm going to listen to it later. I'm going to Going to listen to it later. The Drive-By Truckers, which I'm wearing this shirt today on purpose. This is their Resist shirt that they came up with back in 2018. The Drive-By Truckers is my all-time favorite band. I've got the Cooley Bird tattooed over here. If you've ever wondered what that is, that's the cover from The Big To-Do. But anyway, the Truckers are one of my favorite bands of all time, and they put out an album back, I think 2014 it was, or 15, somewhere through there. They put out one called English Oceans. And I wouldn't admit this in very many places, especially around like diehard trucker fans, but when that album very first came out, I went, ugh, like what the hell is this? I don't know what it was about it, and I had never ever disliked a trucker album, and I still haven't. I until that moment, I was just like, I don't care for this. There was just certain things about the Truckers that I felt like wasn't there. I don't know. There was a couple of songs, there was like maybe one or two songs I went, wow, I like that. But as an album, I just didn't care for it at first. I didn't care for it. But I didn't say it out loud. I was like, no, I respect them too much to bash it, so I'm not going to say anything. And what ended up happening was, I'll bring this back up here again. What ended up happening was, like a couple of years went by, and one day I've just got the Drive-By Truckers on shuffle, and I'm just shuffling their music. And all of a sudden the song came on. I think it was Pauline Hawkins. And I was like, damn, that's good. I was like, where the hell was that at? That's great. That's a great song. I was like, where? And so I'll go over to my phone and I pull it up and it's English Oceans. And I was like, wait a minute, that was on English Oceans? And I backed up and listened to it again and ended up just listening to it for days and going, why did I not like that when I first heard it? So sometimes I just think things have to grow on you, and sometimes I think you're not necessarily ready to hear something. And I guess that's what it was for me. I guess that might have been what it was. But I truly do appreciate y'all for hanging in there with me. And that is the link to the new album. Oh wow, Daisy's going to see DBT next weekend. Is this your first time seeing him? Have you saw him before? I've saw him over 40 times. I'm an addict. Okay. I'm a true drive-by trucker addict. I always tell people that for me, there's music and then there's the drive-by truckers, and I will be listening to the drive-by truckers before this day ends. I listen every day. There's not a day goes by that I don't listen to the truckers at some point. And I literally will listen to music. Okay, well, I almost said something totally inappropriate, but you're about to see the truckers for the for the very first time, and that's going to be awesome. You're going to enjoy it. You're going to love it, and you're probably going to end up being as hooked as I am. I think they're a band that you really do have to see live to fully appreciate. And I will tell you something about them, again, that I've not really talked a whole lot about. But when I very first heard the Drive-By Truckers, I was playing in a band. This was probably around like 04, somewhere like that. Somewhere in that ballpark I was playing around. And me and the band that I was in had just worked up original music, and we played a whole set of original music, and it kind of had, sort of more of a edgier country sound to it. And a buddy of mine, he wasn't my friend at the time he said it. He ended up becoming one of my best friends, but he just walked up to me and was like, man, what was that music y'all was doing? Was that some Drive-By Truckers you were playing? And I was like, no, I'd heard of them. I was like, I've heard of them, but no, I've never listened to them. He's like, well, you should. He's like, because you guys sounded a little bit like them. Some of those songs reminded me of them. He said, you should definitely check it out. I said, okay. And so back then I had, we all did too, if you'd be honest. I had LimeWire on my computer. You guys remember that LimeWire where you just download music and give your computer a virus? I had that. And I go home and I just scroll through and I pick out like 4 or 5. I think it was, let's see. I can still remember this somehow. I've actually got the CD laying around that I burned it off on, but I got Steve McQueen, Putting People on the Moon, When the Pen Hits the Shell, Goddamn Lonely Love, and Too Much Sex, Too Little Jesus. That's the first 5 trucker songs I ever downloaded. And this would have been like 2004 or 4, somewhere like through there. Anyway, and so I was the type of person, I don't think I was just out here stealing music. I was the type of person, if I liked it, I went and bought it. So I listened to those 4 songs. I burned them off onto a CD, and I would listen to it riding around in my car. And on the very first listen of the Drive-By Truckers, it was kind of like, well, that's interesting. Like, I wasn't necessarily hooked right away. As a matter of fact, I was almost kind of like, what's that? And so I listened to those songs a couple of times, but then there was something about it that I just had to keep going back and listen to it again. and listening to it again. And then one day I went to Knoxville to buy some albums. I'd saved up some money. I just wanted some new music. And I went down to the old disc exchange. It was on Kingston Pike. It's not there anymore. They had two disc exchanges. One was on Chapman Highway. One was on Kingston. Well, I went to the one on Kingston Pike. And when I pulled up into the parking lot, it said new releases from the Drive-By Truckers. And it was the album Blessing and a Curse had just came out. And I went in and I was like, well, if that's their new album, I don't necessarily, I want to get it, but I want to get something that's, that's older. And so I got the Southern Rock Opera, and I listened to it first. And as a matter of fact, I listened to Southern Rock Opera when I put it in. I listened to it on repeat so much that I left Blessing and a Curse in the glove box, still in the plastic, for probably a couple of months. and actually, here's part of Blessing and a Curse laying here on. This is a bonus disc. That's going to be a tattoo of mine eventually. But this was a bonus disc from it. Just happened to be laying here. But anyway, I bought that, and I bought Southern Rock Opera, and I just became a fanatic after that. I just got hooked. I went and bought all their albums. I own all their albums. That's one right there, the Unraveling behind me on the wall. And yeah, they're just one of my favorite bands of all time. So I listen to music, and then I listen to the Drive-By Truckers, and to me, they're two different things. The Truckers will definitely be played today to get through it, because they're the music that when you play it, you just feel your stress level starting to drop. It's like, I talk not to get morbid or anything, but I've already instructed my son on what to do when I pass. So I don't want like a funeral and all that crap. I just want people to just remember me for whatever they want to remember me for. But like when they put me in the ground, when they lower me in the ground, I want my son to pull up in his car and just crank Women Without Whiskey as loud as it'll go. That's what I want to be playing when I go in the dirt. And I've already instructed him to do it. The Cowboy Junkies are great. I enjoy them too. So yeah. Hope everyone's doing good. And yeah, thank you guys so much for all of you that's downloaded the new album. I really appreciate it. It's over on bandcamp.com. There's the link on the screen. Summer and the Vol Queen have been sharing those for us, and I truly do appreciate it. Yeah, if you're going to, so I'm going to bring this comment up for a reason. So now I've got to go check out the Truckers. By the way, Northerners loves the way you say Knoxville. Okay. We could have a whole conversation about how to pronounce certain towns in this part of the world. So it depends on where you're at. In certain parts of Knoxville, it's Knoxville. In other parts, it's Knoxville. And then we have Maryville that sits next door, but no one that I know says Maryville. Except my GPS. Everyone else says Maryville. So there's the proper way to pronounce Rocky Top is Lake City. So if you're ever passing through Tennessee and you see a sign that says Rocky Top, that didn't happen until about 10 years ago. They decided to turn Lake City into Rocky Top, but it will forever be Lake City to me. So yeah, but anyway, so the reason I pulled this up, if you're going to check out the Truckers, their last couple of albums have been straight up political. They've drawn the line in the sand from the album American Band on up. They have just drawn the line in the sand and they're going for it. American Band is a great record politically, which they always had the politics in the music. But the three albums that I would highly recommend to anyone who's never heard of them and you're going to go into it for the very first time, in no particular order, you can listen to any of these three and you're going to probably end up being a fan. You could listen to the Southern Rock Opera, Decoration Day, and the Dirty South. Those are my three favorites. Blessing and a Curse is really good too. Brighter Than Creation's Dark, American Band. The Unraveling behind me is a good one. But if you really want to hear what they're about, yeah, start with the Southern Rock Opera or the Dirty South, one of those. And you'll hear the politics in there. I don't understand. I will never understand the people in my part of the world who listened to the Drive-By Truckers and thought that was a bunch of rednecks. I'll never get that. The ones that was like, I can't believe they don't like Trump. I'm like, really? You didn't listen to those songs? Like what? But the Southern Rock Opera does a really good job of documenting, the era of George Wallace, Martin Luther King, and the Southern music that was being made back then. So there's the story of Leonard Skinner intertwined in there. It's a concept album. It's kind of long, but it's worth it. And then, the Dirty South's another one. Those two I would highly recommend to start with. But and I'm always looking for new music too. So you guys throw me your suggestions. What's some bands I've missed? I love discovering new stuff and stuff that you really dive into. One band that I absolutely love, they were originally called Mike and the Moon Pies, and I love that name, but they changed their name to Silverado, which is like a Silverado truck with an A on the end of it. I don't know why they did that. I mean, to each his own. I still listen to their music. If you want to hear just some straight up honky tonk country music played the right way, not this bubblegum Jason Aldean, Luke Bryan crap. If you just want to hear some straight up honky tonk country music the way I like it played, like the old Gary Stewart style, which they did a whole tribute album to Gary Stewart. They're great. I really love them. Ray Wiley Hubbard's high on my list. Lucinda Williams is up there for me too. I think she's the queen in my mind. There's nobody better than that. Jackson Brown. Jackson Brown's great. I can still remember the first time I was a kid. I don't know how I can remember this. I can't necessarily remember what I had for breakfast yesterday, but I can tell you the first time I heard the song "Running on Empty." It wasn't on Forrest Gump. It was riding down. It was a couple of years before that. It was probably like late '80s. I was driving down Highway 63 with my mom going to visit my Aunt Brenda, and "Running on Empty" came on, and I remember thinking, "That's cool as crap." It's funny how I can remember. I don't know if you guys are this way, but I can remember where I was when I heard some songs for the very first time. I was coming across Clinch Mountain between Cumberland Gap and Middlesboro, Tazewell and Morristown. I was coming across Clinch Mountain the first time I ever heard "Simple Man" by Leonard Skinner. So it's like, yeah. Now I've not put my new album on Spotify just yet, but it will be up there soon. I will definitely have it up there soon. I put it up on Bandcamp first and let it circulate a little while. Like I said, for people, and someone just bought it again, thank you for that. I really appreciate it. You know, what I say to people, they'll ask me all the time, they'll say, which music app will help the artist the most? It's definitely Bandcamp. They definitely give you the better price for your music. And, Spotify doesn't, iTunes doesn't. I understand they're convenient. I use them myself. I get it. I understand why people use them. But like I said earlier in the show, for context, this is my 11th album that I put out. So I've got 10 other albums floating around on Spotify. And you get paid like quarterly. I think like every 6 months or so you can withdraw your money. So then I put out the song on Bandcamp called "He Ain't From Here" that I wrote about J.D. Vance. And that one song I made more off of "He Ain't From Here" in just a few weeks on Bandcamp. I made more off that one song than I did off those 10 albums on Spotify for a year. That's no joke. And and at the rate this new album's going, it's probably already passed up what I've made off those 10 albums on Spotify. But I understand why people use it. I use it too. I have it on my phone. And I've had it for so long, it's one of those things it's one of those things I hate, but I have it, because it's so convenient. I've got all my music saved and all my playlists made, and I don't know, all the apps are kind of different, but my favorite music app I ever had was called Mog. It was MOG, and then that eventually turned into Apple, or Apple bought it. But that was my favorite one. Way back in the day, I had Mog. I love Gillian Welch and David Rollins. They're great. I love their music. Me and my ex-wife one time got into a disagreement over, is it Gillian or Jillian? It's Gillian, as far as I know. But my ex-wife, who, by the way, we get along great. There's no more arguments. But that was one of them. It was like, it's Jillian. I was like, no, it's not. So yeah, and Jason Isbell came out of the Drive-By Truckers, and so if you guys have ever heard of Isbell, he's awesome. One of the best live concerts I've ever seen was Jason Isbell, and he is a total package. Can sing his ass off, write great songs, and can play like crazy. What kind of file do you have to upload to Bandcamp? A WAV file. WAV file is what you need to do that. And it's super easy to use. What I also like about it, actually, I'm going to pull it up here. I'll give you guys an idea of sort of how it works so that you'll understand one of the reasons why I like using this too. I'm a big fan of liner notes. You know what I mean? Like, I miss the days of liner notes and albums. I'm always wanting to know who played guitar on what, who produced what, who wrote what, that kind of thing. So let me see if I can bring this back up here and I'll show you what I mean. about one of the reasons why that I really like Bandcamp. Let's see if I got it up here. Okay, I do. So what I like about this is that you can edit your album right here. So if I need to make any changes, I can. But you can go right here, like to this tune. You can click on info, and then it brings up the song. And I actually went in here and put, that, this from the Renaissance Sessions Volume 2, obviously. I play guitars and bass. Brian Stansbury plays drums, percussion. And then you could actually add notes in here if you want to. So this go around, I did that. So right here, I wrote this song on the bass, which is the first for me. Then I came up with the guitar parts. The entire time I was working on the album, I kept trying to write lyrics and couldn't come up with any. I'd always wanted an instrumental, so I decided it didn't need no lyrics. And the guitars I used were a Hagstrom Viking for the rhythm and for the lead, and I also used a Squier Bass 6 guitar for rhythm, and then the bass guitar was a Squier P bass. So I just like it because you can put those stuff in there, and you can also add the lyrics, which is really cool. And I really like that. You can come right here, which that song don't have lyrics, but like right here on my song Faded, you can pull up the lyrics, and there they are. So it's really cool. And when you edit, you can go in, edit. You can change the order if you need to, whatever. It's super easy. If you're a musician, it's super easy to use. And if you sell an album for like $10, you get 7, which is great considering on Spotify you literally get pennies. So and you've got the option for people to pay more if they want to. So some of y'all, and I really appreciate it, I've had people pay $20 for it. And in the past, all of a sudden you look down and someone gave you $100 for it just because they wanted to contribute. And I truly appreciate all the people that do that. It's really helpful. So I like that about it too. And then they have a thing called Bandcamp Friday, which I think I have to look up and see when the next one is. I think it's like either the first or second Friday of every month. And what happens on that day is musicians get to keep 100% of their profits. So I released that. I'm pretty sure I released from here on a Bandcamp Friday, which is one of the reasons why it did so good. So, be sure to check that app out. And there's a lot of good bands like the Truckers and Isbell and different people have stuff on there. It's not just local and underground artists. It's a lot of really good stuff. The Aquarium Rescue Unit. Yes, I love them. That was with, I think I'm thinking of the same thing you were talking about. That was with Colonel Bruce Hampton. Oh, okay. Well, I have got to bring this up. I am so glad. Thank you, Sandy, for asking this question. What are your thoughts on Toy Caldwell and the Marshall Tucker Band? Love their channel. I think Toy Caldwell is one of the greatest guitar players that ever lived and one of the greatest singer-songwriters ever. And he don't get talked about enough. And I thank you so much for bringing him up because he's another guitar player who, if you listen to this album I just put out, you're going to hear Toy Caldwell licks on there because I ripped him off all the time. He's one of the reasons him and Gary Roston from Skinner is why I wanted to have a Les Paul back when I was a kid. It's like, oh man, they just look so cool. There is a version, maybe I'll just share it on social. I'll share it over on Blue Sky or something. There's a version of them doing 24 hours at a time. Charlie Daniels is on stage with them playing a fiddle, and that's one of the greatest live performances I've ever seen in my life. I don't remember where they're at exactly, but Toy Caldwell actually puts on a clinic that would make any guitar player nervous. I just think he's one of the greats, and I'm so glad you brought him up. He played with his thumb, and so did his brother Tommy. Tommy played the bass with his thumb. But Toy Caldwell is one of my heroes. I love him so much, and I think the Marshall Tucker Band. One of my biggest pet peeves is when people says that the Marshall Tucker Band sounds like Skinner and the Allman Brothers. No. Those three bands sound nothing alike. The only thing they had in common was they were all from the South, and they all were friends, and they all hung out together and played a lot of shows together. But the Marshall Tucker Band is just one of the most, I don't know, like they've got country music in there, they've got rock and roll, they've got jazz and western swing. To me, and if you listen to them live, they sound nothing like Skinner. It's always a pet peeve of mine when people lump those three bands in together. They're not the same. Marshall Tucker was unlike anybody, and that first Marshall Tucker album, I'd put it up against anything. It was so good. But they released a live album not long ago that was live on a New Year's Eve, like back in the 70s. They put that thing out, and that's another one that's got some really good performances. So they're a band that you definitely need to go check out the live recordings they did because, God, they were just so good. And old Doug Gray, the lead singer, yeah, that's definitely somebody that I tried to emulate. I'm just glad that you brought that up because nobody talks about Toy Caldwell enough. Uh, he just deserves to be talked about. The Dirt Trucks band is awesome, absolutely. Someone asked what I think of Stevie Ray Vaughan. I think I'll never be able to play like that, no matter how hard I try. I mean, God, he's arguably the GOAT. I mean, I can't think of anybody that can top him at what he does, man. One time I was working at this place, I never will forget it. My son actually works there now. Can't wait for him to leave because it was just mentally drained the crap out of me. But what we did was we built cargo trailers, and I had to put this flooring in this trailer, and I was down, screwing in the flooring of on this trailer, and they all of a sudden the Sky's Crying by Stevie Ray Vaughan came on. And I'm sitting there listening to it, and I just stopped drilling. I just got so caught up in that solo, I just stopped drilling. And the guy's like, "Hey, buddy, get to work." I was like, "Why'd you stop? What are you just standing there for?" I was like, "Sorry, man, I just got caught up in that solo." And everybody started laughing. I was like, "That's some great guitar playing." I couldn't concentrate with that playing. But, yeah, he's, yeah. Did I play Voodoo Child? I have before. Yeah, I don't know if I'm saying this guy's name right. My buddy, I need to dig more into Joe Bonamassa, or however you say his name. I need to dig more into him. I have listened to him some. My buddy that plays guitar with me loves him. We've listened to him going to gigs, and I've loved everything that I've heard. So, yeah, Pure Prairie League was great. I did play Voodoo Child. Thanks, Lynn, for remembering it. I really appreciate it. But, yeah, thanks, Vol Queen. I really appreciate you for hanging around, and hope everyone has a good day. I'm going to hang in here a few more minutes, folks, and then we'll go ahead and cut it off. But, Stevie Ray is just one of the greatest. I think too, what I really appreciate about Stevie Ray Vaughan for me is he was the gateway drug into so much other good music for me. He really was, because, I heard him back when I was a teenager learning how to play guitar. And I was always this person. I was the person that I wanted to know who inspired who. And so when I heard Skinner say that they were inspired by the Yardbirds and Cream, and the Beatles and the Stones, then I had to go listen to that. And then when I heard, who the Beatles and the Stones loved, I had to go listen to that. Stevie Ray Vaughan was the same way. When he started talking about Albert King and Freddie King and Buddy Guy and Robert Cray, then it was like, I got to dig into that. And then you just keep going back and digging, and pretty soon you're digging into, Howlin' Wolf and Muddy Waters. You make your way all the way back to Slim Harpo and Robert Johnson and, Blind Lemon Jefferson. There's just so many of them. I love Slim Harpo when it comes to those old blues players. Just the way he goes, "I'm a king bee, can buzz all night." I just love the way he says, "I'm a king bee." It's one of my favorite things ever. He was so good. But yeah, hope everyone is doing good. Yeah, Voodoo Child was just a masterpiece. It really was. But even though he didn't write it, I think the greatest Hendrix recording ever is All Along the Watchtower. I would have to put it up there. He took that song from Bob Dylan and did something with it that we've not heard before or since. I don't know if music has ever caught up to what he did in All Along the Watchtower. And Voodoo Child would be right there next to it. If I had to do the Mount Rushmore of Hendrix tunes, it'd be All Along the Watchtower. Voodoo Child's got to be there. Little Wing for me would have to be there. And I don't know what would be number 4. Oh, man, that's hard. Because you got songs like Purple Haze. That's a great one. It might have to be it. Then you got Red House. And I like the song Changes that he did later with the Band of Gypsies. And I think the drummer sang it. But it was really, really good. So I don't know. I guess the 4th one would just be up for debate. Robin Trower's another one. Those people like Robin Trower and guys like that, they'll make you never want to play guitar again when you hear it, Gary Moore, the Allman Brothers, Dickie Betts is my Mount Rushmore guitar players. It'd have to be like Gary Roston, Dickie Betts, Toy Caldwell, and I probably would throw Neil Young on there. I love Neil Young's guitar playing. I think it gets overlooked. It's rough and it's raw, but the thing about Neil Young is he could sit there and rock the hell out of it on something like Hey, Hey, My, or Cortez the Killer, and then he could pick up an acoustic guitar and play Old Man. You know, I think he's criminally underrated. It was Buddy Miles. Yes, you're right, Buddy Miles from the Band of Gypsies. I'll tell you what I do a lot of times when I forget someone's name. I almost said Buddy Miller, but Buddy Miller is a country singer who y'all should check out. He's great. I almost said Buddy Miller, and I knew that wasn't it. That's why I pumped the brakes. It was Buddy Miles. Thanks for saying that. Johnny Winter. Oh, man. Johnny Winter's album, The Progressive Blues Experiment, is one of my favorite things of all time. And I like, there's very few times that the cover beats the original. I think All Along the Watchtower, Jimi Hendrix just created something altogether new with that. But if there's ever been a runner-up for Johnny Be Good, which nothing beats Chuck Berry's original, but when Johnny Winter plays Johnny Be Good, it's another level. It is so good. And God, he was such a good guitar player. I always loved how he played those Gibson Firebirds. I've always wanted one of those. I played one not long ago in a music store, but I didn't want to splurge. But yeah, Jimmy Page is another one. Roy Clark. See, I'm always impressed when someone mentions someone like Roy Clark or Toy Caldwell. I really appreciate that. The Roston Collins Band, that's another one that was underrated. That was Skinner after the plane crash. They came out in 1979 and put out 2 albums, Any Place, Anytime, Anywhere. And the second one was called, I think, This Is the Way. I just think that music was criminally underrated too. They had Dale Krantz, which went on to be Gary Roston's wife, singing, which was a smart move at that point to not have the lead singer, because who's going to follow Ronnie Van Zant? Years later, of course, his little brother Johnny picked it up and took it. But yeah, that was a great underrated band. And I'm glad somebody said Lindsey Buckingham, because Lindsey Buckingham's one of those guys. To me, falls into that category of like a Mike Campbell from Tom Petty. Those kind of guitar players never get the credit because people's too busy just saying Fleetwood Mac or Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. But they were phenomenal guitar players. Mike Campbell's one of my all-time favorites, and so was Lindsey Buckingham was great. Slash is awesome, and I never could play fast. And if you listen to my record, you're not going to hear a bunch of fast play, and I can't do it. I'll just own it. But I can play melodic, and I can play kind of rough around the edges. And Slash, what I loved so much about him was his leads were melodic. Back when I was in a cover band at one point, we used to play Sweet Child of Mine. The drummer sang it because I couldn't get up there that high. And my buddy could play the faster shredding parts and play the intro part, and then I would come in on the leads. I love that stuff. Like, I love leads that you can sing or that you could hum or whistle. And that's why I love Toy Caldwell from Marshall Tucker, Dickie Betts from Allman Brothers, Roston from Leonard Skinner. If you listen to Tuesdays Gone, that lead is just so melodic. And even though Alan Collins absolutely steals the show on the Freebird solo, that slide guitar, if that hadn't have been in the intro to that, to set the stage for that, that was the Scottie Pippen to the Michael Jordan moment right there. That was the assist. Rosington passed that to him just in time for him to get on the Wheaties box, But, yeah, there's so many. You guys are bringing up a lot of great guitar players, and we could sit here and talk about guitar players all day, and I wouldn't have a problem with it. Derek Trucks is one that blows my mind. I've seen him live a couple of times. He is just I don't even know. Like, sometimes I wonder if he's even, like, is that guy not an alien? Because it's almost like he's too good. Santana's awesome. Even though Eric Clapton's totally disappointed me lately with a lot of his antics, I can't lie. I loved his music when I was a teenager. Pink Floyd and ZZ Top, it's another. Billy Gibbons was so good. Somebody mentioned AC/DC. The thing about AC/DC was, I don't know if there's ever been a band that just, Martin Knopfler, John Five, yeah, Mick Taylor. Oh, now here we go again. See, that's one of those people that, like Toy Caldwell, more people should talk about Mick Taylor. He was in the Stones from like 68 to 72, I believe. He's on Sticky Fingers. Well, I think he was on Let It Bleed first, part of Let It Bleed, because that's right around the time Brian Jones died. So you got, I think he came in on the tail end of Let It Bleed, though, and then he was on Exile on Main Street, Beggar's Banquet, maybe, Sticky Fingers for sure. He was on that live album, too, I think. So, yeah. Huey Thomason from the Outlaws is another great one. Billy Strings, as far as people going out there today, yeah, man, that dude is a prodigy. Somebody said something though, and now I got distracted with all these names popping up. There's so many good ones. Bonnie Raitt's another one. Mark Knopfler. I could spend the rest of the day talking about him. My dad loves Mark Knopfler. I walk by my dad's room all the time, and he's in there listening to Mark Knopfler. And if you ever get to see Ed King, yes, Ed King was great. John Mayer's good. He makes some really funny faces when he plays. Oh, I know what I was going to say. Someone mentioned AC/DC. They're just one of the greatest straightforward rock and roll bands of all time. And Angus Young is great lead guitar player, great entertainer, and he definitely stole the show when they played. But you got to hand it to Malcolm Young. He's probably the greatest rhythm guitar player ever was. He's just standing over there, just still as can be. And if you sit there and watch him play something like Long Way to the Top, and he's just sitting there, or TNT, Malcolm Young is the unsung hero in that band. He truly is. Because without him, he's really the sound more so than Angus is, in my opinion. Angus is a great lead guitar player, but you take Malcolm out of that equation, and those rhythm parts are not easy to play. They sound it, but they're not easy. I used to play when the band I was in years ago. We had a drummer that could sing real high like that, so he could do the Guns N' Roses and AC/DC and stuff like that. And my buddy could absolutely smoke lead guitar, but whenever we played AC/DC songs, he was always like, "Man, I want to play rhythm." Because I think the rhythm's more fun to do, so you play the leads. So I would learn the leads to the AC/DC tunes and play those, and then he would do the rhythm. And it's not as easy as it sounds. It's one of those things that's a lot of people hears it and goes, "That's easy." No, it's easy to play, but it's hard to master. And that's a thing with a lot of the old blues music. If you go back and listen to stuff, go back and listen to Hubert Sumlin, who played with Howlin' Wolf. That stuff sounds simple. You'll listen to him play Killing Floor or Smokestack Lightning. That stuff sounds really easy to do, but it's hard to master. It's really hard to get the tone and the timing and the feel right. And no, I can't. I've never tried to play Cliffs of Dover. I've never actually attempted it. But yeah, someone said Freddie King. Man, that dude was like, you can't forget Frank Zappa for sure. Freddie King was like 6'8" or something. He was a tall dude, about 350 pounds. I mean, he's a monstrous dude, and he's playing like a Gibson ES-335, and it looks like a mandolin on him. He's such a big dude. But, man, could that dude play. He was unreal. Roy Buchanan, I'm glad you brought him up. Buddy guy. Roy Buchanan is another one that should have been a lot bigger than he was. Jerry Reed, Glenn Campbell, Roy Clark, Chet Atkins, Merle Travis. You gotta put Merle Travis in there for sure. Merle Travis. When I was a kid and I heard Merle Travis playing, I thought that was like a band. Like I really did. I thought some of his songs was an entire band. It's not. If you go on YouTube and find some of his videos, that finger picking style he did. I know he was a huge influence on Jerry Reed and Chet Atkins. And man, if you turns you back, you think three guys was playing it, and it's not. It's just one dude, and it's great. Jerry Reed, I grew up seeing Jerry Reed on Mama's Family, and in the movies and stuff, and didn't realize that was. Believe it or not, for a long time, when I would see Jerry Reed's name in albums, I didn't think it was the same Jerry Reed on TV. I didn't think that was him. And then later on, my uncle like, "No, that's really him." And I was like, "Are you kidding me? That dude, from Smoking, what was he in? I'm on the tip of my tongue. He was in Smokey the Bandit, but there was something else. Shit. Can't remember now. But anyway, you know what I'm talking about. I used to see him on Mama's Family playing that, like the goofy dude that used to be in love with Convoy, yeah. Glenn Campbell's another one. Les Paul and Murray Ford, yeah. Another person that don't get enough love in the guitar playing department is Mother Maybelle Carter. I think that that she definitely needs to have more credit. I mean, if you was making a Mount Rushmore just on guitar contributions, she's in that category. Chuck Berry's another one. If you start, and it's the thing with music, I don't care where you land in the musical spectrum, wherever you hit, if you start tracing back the influences, you will always wind back up with Chuck Berry. You're always going to wind back up with Robert Johnson. You're always going to come right back down. like that, no matter where, if you start over here, if you started off listening to Slipknot and then said, okay, who was their favorite guitar player and who was favorite guitar player, that one, it wouldn't take you long till you'd be right back there. And another person is Jimmy Reed that used to play with Muddy Waters. Did the Big Boss Man. Jimmy Reed was phenomenal too. So let's see. Let me grab his comment right here. I haven't heard. Let's see. Did you read that Johnny Cash claimed that Mother Maybelle Carter played Jimmy Rogers' guitar for his last songs when he was literally on his deathbed? No, I hadn't heard that. Or if I read it, I forgot about that. But thanks for bringing that up. That's interesting. I did not know that. Luther Perkins played alongside Johnny Cash. He was one of the ones that really helped define that boom chicka boom style that Johnny Cash had. So yeah, I hope everyone is doing well. Oh wow, someone saw Muddy Waters in the mid-70s. I envy you so much. Gary Moore, oh man, that dude was so good. Justin Hayward from the Moody Blues. Nobody ever mentions that dude. Thank you for that. That's awesome. Yeah, John Coltrane. I love jazz music. I love sitting and listening to stuff like that. John Coltrane, is it Giant Steps? And then he had a Love Supreme that's good. I love Miles Davis, Sketches of Spain, and Kinda Blue. Those are great. And Ornette Coleman. Ornette Coleman, is it The Shape of... Let's see. Now my mind's going blank. But Ornette Coleman, The Shape of Jazz to Come, is one of my favorite jazz albums ever. I love that one. Thelonious Monk, yeah, man, we could talk guitar players the rest of the day, and it would not bore me at all. There's so many good ones out there. We've named a bunch of them. I don't know. I was trying to sit here and think who might. Well, I tell you, I don't have to think long at all. Marty Stewart. If you ever get a chance to go check out Marty Stewart and the Fabulous Superlatives, him and Kenny Vaughn together again, that's like aliens from outer space. Like, they're so good, it's ridiculous. I remember, it was a funny story. Me and my buddy John Baker went to the Bijou Theater in Knoxville and watched them. And a lot of the Knoxville musicians was there in the room watching this. One of the best shows I ever seen. They were playing harmony leads at like breakneck speed. And there wasn't a mistake made anywhere. I mean, there wasn't one blooper, one hesitation, nothing. It was perfect. And the bass player is the grandson of Earl Scruggs, so you know he comes from a long line of greatness. And so they're up there, and it's like a 4-piece band, and they're absolutely just jamming like you've never heard in your life. And when it was over, I run into my good buddy Poe Hanna as we was coming out the door, and he said, "What did you think of that?" And I said, "Man, to be honest, I was sitting back hoping they would make a mistake. Just to see if they were human." I said, because it was so good that I was like, come on, somebody's got to goof up somewhere. No, they didn't. They absolutely put on a clinic. It's one of the best shows I've ever seen in my life. And Marty Stewart, he put him on a mandolin. He can tear it up too. Those twin leads, and I've played twin leads in bands before with people. It takes a lot of practice. You got to really be on top of it to do it. You got to be in time with each other. If one of you makes a mistake, it throws the whole thing off. I've played like more melodic sounding twin leads with guitar players I've played with over the years. And I've dueled with people on albums, but, and live on stage. But man, for them two to play the harmonies the way they did it so fast, that's what was impressive to me. It was like, dang man, like that is like a chicken picking harmony lead is not an easy thing to do. But yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, man. Someone just mentioned the trucker music back in the day. And I know they're not talking about drive-by truckers. Daisy said that the Hilda Dawn reminds me a little bit of Santana. Well, I spent a lot of time listening to him. So, and actually, it's funny you said that, because Santana is the one that I heard say the quote about, if you take from one man, it's stealing. If you take from many, it's called research. It was actually Santana that I heard say that. So, yeah. But see, Exile on Main Street, oh man, that's one of the greatest albums of all time. So real quick, Mount Rushmore of Stones albums is pretty much those Mick Taylor years, but There probably would be one that wouldn't be Mick Taylor, but for me, my Mount Rushmore Stones album is Let It Bleed, Exile on Main Street, Sticky Fingers, and Some Girls. Which Some Girls, that's when Ronnie Wood came on board, but Some Girls is amazing. And I've got the original Some Girls album with Lucille Ball on the cover because she sued them and they removed her for a while off of the cover. So if you ever see that cover and don't see Lucille Ball on it, or if you do see Lucille Ball on it, that's one of the more originals. But yeah, Django Reinhardt is another guitar player. I don't think anyone mentioned him, but go check him out. He is amazing. Oh man, there's a lot of great fiddle players out there. Obviously, Charlie Daniels come to my mind. I'll share it later over on Blue Sky or Facebook. I'll just share a link to. It's the Marshall Tucker Band doing 24 hours at a time with Charlie Daniels on the fiddle. It's just unbelievable. It's one of the best performances I've ever seen in my life. And there's certain. I need to probably make a playlist. Maybe we'll do that. Maybe we'll make a playlist on YouTube of my favorite live performances I found. There's one of the Dire Straits doing Sultans of Swing, and they're somewhere overseas, man, and they are absolutely. The drummer deserves like a raise. He deserves an award because he has played it at such a breakneck speed and he never misses a note. And they stretch it out longer than the album version. Martin Knopfler blisters the hell out of the guitar, and he's got a headband on, and they're all kind of like dancing in place. It's kind of got that little cheesy '80s vibe going to it. But it ain't no cheesy '80s music. It's great. There's a couple of videos like that I go back to just to watch again. There's also a video of Patty Loveless singing "Pretty Polly" with Ralph Stanley. That one always raises the hair up on the back of my neck. It's great. George Thorogood was awesome. Now that's the kind of when it comes to slide guitar playing, I have never been able to play slide guitar worth a damn. I don't know how in the world people like Derek Trucks does it and Dwayne Allman. I don't understand that at all. But now as far as that dirty, raunchy, kind of sound that he got on like Move It On Over and stuff, I can do that. I used to take a beer bottle back in the day and drag it across my strings, and it had a Thorogood vibe to it. But yeah, we came here, Eddie Van Halen. Here's the thing. I never really, honestly, I got to be honest, I never really got into Van Halen's music too much, but I learned so much from Eddie Van Halen because I used to have subscriptions to guitar magazines, and he was in them all the time talking and doing interviews about guitar playing. And I learned so much from him over the years just reading his interviews. He was such a knowledgeable dude. Hell of a guitar player. I just never myself really got into Van Halen too hard. But just a hellacious guitar player. And one of those that you just can't touch it. Yeah, Money for Nothing. We used to play that every night back in the day. We played, me and the band I used to be in, we played Money for Nothing. We played Walk of Life. We played Sultans of Swing. There was another one. And I like a lot of Mark Knopfler's solo albums. Sailing to Philadelphia is one of my favorites. That was a great one. But yeah, I've been going over 2 hours. I really appreciate you for being here with me. Like I said, I didn't want to watch the inauguration. I didn't want to see it. And I will just say this. I've always had respect for the office of the presidency, and I still do as far as that goes. I have respect for the office of the presidency. But I truly feel in my heart of hearts that Donald Trump don't. And the main reason why I would say that he don't have respect for the office is that he says he has to have immunity in order to be able to do his job. And there is no one else on this planet that could say that at their place of work and get away with it. No one would ever be able to do it and get away with it. Try it sometime. Go to work and just say, hey, I'm not going to follow the handbook today. I just got to have immunity to do my job and see how quick you get fired. That right there tells me he has no respect for it. He didn't have respect for the peaceful transfer of power in 2020. He didn't go to the inauguration, so why anyone's mad at Michelle Obama, I have no idea. He just had no respect for the office himself. It's all about him. And the money that he's made just since he got reelected is ridiculous. So that to all the people that says, well, you don't take a salary. You don't need to when you're raking in millions like he is. He just has no respect for the office, and he has no respect for the process, and I have no respect for him. And I have no respect for for the people that voted for him either. I'm going to treat people with respect, and I'm going to be good to people when I see them. I'm going to treat people the way I want to be treated. I'm not going to go out there and be mean and cruel to people, and I don't believe in that at all. But I don't have no respect for that decision they made. I can't. After everything they lived through and seen, and they still thought that was the best option. That's why, when people the ones that sat in focus and talked about Joe Biden's stutter, I mean, that's like the most ridiculous, to sit and talk about his stutter and not talk about everything Donald Trump was and is. I've literally had people, I didn't like Kamala's laugh. Really? Okay. Well, there's going to be a whole lot of things you don't like coming forward. And so, I really do appreciate y'all for hanging in there and being with me here today. I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up. But before we go, I just want to say this. I truly appreciate everybody for coming on this channel and supporting what it is that I do. As long as we have a platform, we'll be doing our best to call it out and continue the fight. People says, what are we going to do going forward? Well, we're going to remember that just because Donald Trump's the president now doesn't take away from who he is and what he's all about. And we're just going to have to make our voices louder. We're going to have to get our messages out there farther. We're going to have to find ways to make it connect with other people. We're going to have to talk with, we're going to have to put it out there for people to hear and understand where we're coming from. So tomorrow night here on the channel at 7 p.m. Eastern, I won't be going live at noon tomorrow. At 7 p.m. Eastern time tomorrow here on the channel, I'm going to have Gloria Johnson from the Tennessee 3. She's going to be here talking with me. And we're going to be talking about some things that are going on in Tennessee. And I really believe that if you start talking about what's happening in your state and how these policies are affecting people in your state, I want to raise more awareness on that so that people understand this is why this is happening to you. This is what you voted for. And I will be right here reminding them every step of the way that if they say, I didn't vote for this, yeah, you did. Whether you meant to or not, you did. So we're going to be here to remind them of that and let people know what it is we stand for, what we believe in, because I really believe that our ideas are more popular. We just got to get it out there to more people. So me and Gloria is going to be working on that tomorrow evening at 7 p.m. here on the channel. So thank you so much for that. Thank y'all for being here. We had a pretty good crowd, and I appreciate all of you that came and went and came back again. And I hope that everyone is doing good. We will also want to say thanks to everyone who has downloaded my new album, The Brimstone Sessions Volume 2. I may make 3 eventually. Thank you so much for downloading that. It's available on Bandcamp.com, and I really appreciate y'all. We will get through this. America has went through dark eras before. I talked to my mom a whole lot about what it was like to live through 1968 and then live through 1972. And let's see. All right, hold on. Someone wants me to do one more. Let's see. All right. Well, I'm going to play y'all one more tune from my album, and you can find it over on Bandcamp. It's where it's at, and hope everyone is... let me do this real quick. All right, so here it is. This is on Bandcamp.com, and I'll tell you the story real quick behind this tune. I wrote it several years ago and just got around to recording it. But the name of the song was called Faded. And what happened was I saw a picture of a picture of me from years ago with a friend of mine. We were sitting at a table having a beer together, and I had on this Muhammad Ali shirt in the video, and I was in the picture. And then I realized I had the same Muhammad Ali shirt on as I was looking at the picture. Like, crap, I got that same shirt on, except now the shirt had completely faded, and there was still some red in my beard, and that had all faded away. And so that's what inspired me to write this tune. It's the second track on the Brimstone Session. So here for you guys is Faded. There we sit in the photograph, a million miles behind us, sharing a beer and a laugh. Still got the same shirts to remind us, but now they're faded. restore us, living out the songs we played. That old dive was made just for us, and now it's faded. It's all faded. We went searching for a place to be. Our whole life lay out before us, humming along to the melody, just waiting on the chorus till it faded. Now we pass on the street, there ain't no way around it. The spark is there when we meet, but we both know we can't go down it, 'cause it's faded. It's all faded. Yeah, it's all faded. And there's a funny story about that song, about the recording of that song. One of the funniest parts about recording that is that on the ending there, when it's two lead guitars playing at the same time, that's me doing both parts. What happened was, I was working on the last solo, and I did one, and I was like, "Yeah, play that back. Let me hear it." And so he played it back, and I was like, "Do I keep that or throw it away?" And I was like, "Play it one more time." Well, he played it, and then I was like, "Okay, stop. I'm going to keep it," but he couldn't hear me, so I just started playing along with it and just kind of dueling with my own self. And then Odell was like, "You know, that sounded kind of cool." He's like, "What if you?" He's like, "What if you just kind of dueled with yourself there?" And I was like, "Well, let me go back and listen to it again." And so I did, and then there it was. So that's me doing both parts, but I had a lot of fun with it. And listen to those old Skinner albums when Roston and Collins would do that. Definitely helped me figure out how to go about it. I always loved when they would harmonize together and they would play twin together, but then they would also kind of venture off and kind of duel with one another. And I just always loved the way that sounded, especially if you listen to them on a song like Searching. They just had a way of getting together at some points and then kind of going against each other at some points, and I always loved that. So anyway, I really do appreciate y'all for sticking around with me today. We're going to get through the next 4 years. It's going to be a rough and rocky road. I know everyone's down today, but we got to remember that we're still here, and just be sure to get out. I was talking to my buddy the other day. I was like, we got to get out and still live life, and we got to have good days with our family, and we can't let this consume us and get the better of us. We got to find ways to still, find happiness where we can find it. So be good to other people, treat people with respect, be good to them, and we'll plow through this, and we'll get through it, come out the other side. As bad as I hate to say it, maybe letting them have a chance to prove what a colossal failure they'll be might be the best thing for us. I really feel bad for the people it's going to affect as it happens, but maybe if enough people realizes, hey, this is what you ended up with, then we can turn the tide and bring it back in our favor. I really am a believer that the pendulum swings, and it swung that way this go around. And maybe when people finally realizes that the culture wars have no substance, that owning the libs has no substance, then maybe we'll be able to turn it back around. But I really do appreciate you for being here. Thank y'all to everyone that bought my album today, and I really appreciate your all support. Also, be sure to tune in tomorrow night here on the channel, 7 p.m. Eastern. I'll be talking with Gloria Johnson from the Tennessee 3. I'm also working on some more guests to line up, so yeah, we'll keep pushing forward, and I really appreciate y'all for taking time out. And thank you for helping me boycott such a dark day. I truly appreciate all of you, and we will get through it. Love y'all, and take care of yourselves.